Now,
Ow, now, brown cow.
the Olympic torch was, or the human torch was denied a bank loan.
Yes.
This is Bush League. This is Bush League. You see this? I'll hit you in the mouth. We're live? I don't believe you.
That's a good choice.
I don't believe you. The human torch was denied a bank loan. The arsonist had oddly shaped feet. Scotch. Down in my belly. This podcast sponsored by Bucked Up Energy Drink, which it actually is.
By what?
Bucked Up Energy Drink.
Bucked Up. I've never even heard of it.
Neither have I until I saw it at my gym, and I figured shit, their name's so close to fucked up that they're probably not gonna have too many qualms with the language on this podcast. So I messaged them and I was like, "Hey, will you guys sponsor this?" And they're like, "We give you a coupon code for your audience to use, and you'll get a portion of that." I think I get 0.5%, but I'll take it. So it's
at 0.5% more than you had before.
Fuck yeah, TPC 20, TPC 20, 20% off your whole order. It's just kind of it's like GNC, just not named.
I do my best to avoid energy drinks.
Yeah, no, so do I.
If I want to wake up, I just go skydiving. It usually takes 1 or 2 of those just to get me going.
Yeah. No, you can get a caffeine-free one. That's why I only like the caffeine-free ones. Yeah, dude. So, yeah, well, you and I already did a podcast, but for every asshole that didn't listen to the first one and they're only tuning in now, Sean, please introduce yourself, my friend.
What up, guys? Sean, skydiving instructor, dude, guy. About all I got.
That's all he's got. That's all you need, though. Yeah, you were in the Army. You
5 years in the Army, aviation, helicopters, contracted overseas in Abu Dhabi for a year. Jumped over the Palm Island in Dubai with my wingsuit.
Yeah.
Came back to the U.S., started flying planes and skydiving.
Yeah, a much more exciting life than I guess most people do. It's not
a competition.
Yeah, only with yourself. There's a guy that's gonna do my podcast. I emailed him. I didn't think he would actually respond. It's some dude that is ex Delta Force, and he was in
from U.S.
Yeah, and I was like, just like shit, because my cousin's much older than me, but he was an Army Ranger, and I keep trying to get a hold of him to do this, and he keeps flaking out on me, and finally I was just like, well shit, Delta Force selects from the Rangers, and I was like, the next best thing, I guess. And so I emailed him. I mean Delta Force, that's the equivalent of that's the Army equivalent of DevGru, right? Like SEAL Team 6.
I don't know the hierarchy of it.
I guess in terms of tiers, there's Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, and then there's Delta Force and DevGru. They select from them.
I know Army Rangers are not equivalent to Navy SEALs. Army Rangers are below what I would say is Special Forces. So Special Forces and Navy SEALs, I would say, are more on par with each other.
Yeah.
I was neither. I was in the SOF community, so the Special Operations Forces community, but I wasn't one of those guys. So, the training I did, I still had to go through selection and stuff like that. And if you've ever seen, do you remember a show on Discovery called Surviving the Cut, by chance?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think they might have the episodes on YouTube, but it was a whole series on, difficult trainings that you had to go through for the military. And they did one for the Night Stalkers, which was the group that I was with, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. And so I've technically survived the cut, which makes it sound way cooler than it is. So,
dude, I always look at, it's always weird. I try to look down so the guest can see my eyes, because I realize when I do that, I can
see myself doing that.
Yeah, I realize I just have ignited eyes, and I'm like that. I don't like when the video doesn't come through. Sometimes the video won't come through and people will be like, oh, let's just do audio. And I'm like, I feel weird just talking. Yeah. It's the same thing. I always think guests are going to feel weird because they can't see my pupils. So it's just you're staring at the bright glasses. But not important.
No,
not at all. Okay. So I got in a workout, so my head's clear. Like I said, last time I didn't work out beforehand, and that was the second podcast I'd done not working out beforehand. And I think if you were to actually go through and look at each podcast, you could probably pick out the two, because it's I'm I'm clearly in like first gear. I'm just like,
Yeah, you're not awake.
No. Yeah, like last time we were talking and I was like, you do wingsuiting? And you're like, dude, I showed you a picture of my and I was like, oh, and I was just like,
oh yeah, oops.
I was just like, fuck. But I was like, all right, that's the last one. I'm not working out beforehand. So when people are like, can you do like an 8 p.m.? I'm like, no, I have to go to bed early. I have to work out because it's shitty to the guest. But yeah, so I had never played. I live under a rock. Like culturally, I always don't see shit until like a decade later. I don't read books till like 15 years after they're out. I tend to under
join the club, buddy.
Yeah, and it's not some like hipster shit. It's like I just don't pay attention. It goes over my head. And then when I finally do find it, I'm like, oh, I read Harry Potter like after I graduated college. I was like, man, this is a really cool series. I wonder what happens next. I was like,
I just watched the movie.
Yeah, I was just like literally like 2014. I was like, oh, this is a neat book. But yeah, so because of that, I picked up an Xbox 360 this past weekend. Just went and got a used one for like $50, and I got all the Call of Duties. Had never played any of them. I'm 29. It is the year 2020. Had never played any of them. I played through, the Modern Warfare, I guess, 1, 2, and 3, and I played Black Ops 1 and 2. 360 doesn't run the campaign on Black Ops 3. I put it in.
I was like, Xbox One X.
Yeah, I was like, let's go, and it like wouldn't load. I was like, the fuck? I don't want multiplayer. I don't have Xbox Live. I don't want it. And I looked it up, and it was like the 360 doesn't run. I was like, God damn it. I guess I was like, that's what I get. Point is, now I'm all jacked up on fictional takes on war and special forces. And in Black Ops 2, you jump out of like the V-22 Ospreys, but they have those wingsuits, the ones with the jet engines. Yeah. And like I'm sure. Like I texted you, I was like, literally told you, I was like, my mind's all like jacked up on just like unrealistic takes on reality, and I was like, so I want you to shoot them down. But yeah, one of them is you like jump out in like you have like wingsuits for one of them, but then you have like those like the literal like, kind of like hard wings. Yeah. With like the maybe it's jet engine, maybe it's a rocket, I don't know, but. You didn't actually do anything in them that you couldn't do in a wingsuit. It's just more so it's a video game. But granted, it's supposed to take place in 2025. But now my mind's all like, this is what happens. This is reality, and I need you to pull me back down. So
all right,
so
let's shoot him down.
Okay, yeah. So that shit's not. That's by no means it's at that point where even special forces would use them, because it's just not even.
To my knowledge, I would say no, given I'm not an expert in them.
Fuck yeah, you are.
In wingsuits, I know a bit. In the actual, I guess you could call them jetpacks, not so much. Mm-hmm. Hold on, let me close my window because I can get notifications.
You're good. No, we don't fact check here, so you're an expert, and anyone who says otherwise can just fucking unsubscribe now, because that's not what this is about. Sean is an expert. Sean also invented flight. You invented the Wright Flyer in 1902. Not a lot of people know that.
I invented the duct tape wingsuit and actually flew it.
That is true, actually. That is true, and that's actually a lot cooler. Yeah, that is. But yeah, so the Jetman suits, they're just. Do you think
they're all one-off? To my knowledge, they're all individually made and individually, I guess, adjusted, tailored, redesigned, and stuff like that. And all I know is they are exorbitantly expensive. I know they generally use the JetCat engines, which are anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 each. And I know most of the ones that fly with engines, if not all of them, are outside of the U.S. And I think that's because there's some FAA rules on if it actually has an engine and it's powered, it's considered an aircraft, and it has to be an experimental aircraft. So there's a whole list of stuff it has to abide by. It has to get like a tail number and stuff like that. I was reading about it a couple of years ago. So if you have one in the U.S., they basically just don't put the engines on. And you can still jump out and glide them down for a while, and they're a lot more efficient than a wingsuit because a hard wing just is more efficient than an inflated wing. But I know a lot of them have a jettison system, and when I say jettison, I don't mean like rocket assisted for it to go off. It's just like a release system, because if it gets out of hand, you need to get it off of you.
Yeah.
And so then the wing itself usually has like its own little mini parachute or something. That way it just doesn't smash into the ground and destroy all 100 grand of it.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
My boss, I was talking to him about it because he's got 1 or 2 flights on him just with no engines, just dropping out of like a helicopter or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he said he ended up having to cut it away and release it too because it just got out of hand. So
do you think that these are at a stage where it's like the equivalent of like early wingsuiting, where it's like these are crazy, but like this will, after some like decades of innovation, this will become more commonplace? Or do you think that we're like at the beginning of jetman suits, or wings, or do you think this is one of this is more of like it's a cool novelty? It's great for like Red Bull like photo shoots, or by the A380 over Dubai, but it's probably not gonna take off.
I think right now it's more of a novelty thing. As far as tactical uses of them, I don't really see it. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm not DARPA, so I can only speculate. I mean, they're not the quietest things, so you probably don't want to be flying that in at night somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're not the most user-friendly things.
Yeah.
So the military guys that have a whopping total of 50 to 100 free fall jumps, which sounds like a lot, are probably not going to be able to use those.
What'd you call them? Was it Sky Kings? Sky Gods?
Sky Gods.
Sky Gods.
Well, they think they're Sky Gods. The military guys usually have to get talked to a lot because they did something that they didn't realize or understand was as dangerous as it was.
And they don't like being told that, hey, you're not indestructible. You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my legs that are going to break, but like, I don't want you to run into somebody else that's like not involved in your bullshittery, and then you take them down with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then you got some special forces fucking general commander. Like, the fuck are you doing? You ruined my man. Yeah. So, for the jet suits, they're not quiet, so you're not going to use them to stealthily insert. But what about just toying with the idea, because clearly I want these to be real.
I do too.
Yeah. What about, like, emergency exfiltration? Going back to all the 30 fucking hours of Black Ops I played over 2 days.
Emergency exfiltration. Well, I think you would have a logistics problem, because to leave with them in a hurry, that means you have to carry them in at some point in time.
Okay.
Also, not subtle. Also, for emergency exfiltration, I'm just going to assume somebody's been shot reasonably. So I think the guy that's running low on blood and in kind of pain probably shouldn't be flying a jet wing, because I can only see that going south just exceedingly quickly.
What about like...
There are a couple cool ways the military's devised to exfil teams or individuals pretty quickly. Skyhook.
That's the cool one.
Here's the thing about Skyhook. Skyhook actually inspired one of the founders of skydiving. His name is Bill Booth. He's like me, but older, and a beard down to like basically his crotch. There's an invention in the skydiving gear called the Skyhook. Mm-hmm. And it came out 20, 30 years ago, probably a good 30 years ago. And basically what it does is when you have a malfunctioning parachute, it uses the malfunctioning parachute that you cut away, that releases from you, to pull out the reserve parachute immediately. Mm-hmm. And it does it so quickly and so efficiently that the altitude you lose in the process is minimal, like 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet, which in the grand scheme of things is exceedingly awesome, considering without that you're looking at 500, 600, 700 feet at least.
Really? With a malfunctioning?
Yeah. So, but have you seen the original Skyhook, like the actual videos of it? It looks awesome, and I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think what was the first one was literally like the CIA codenamed it like Operation Cold Feet.
Something like that, yeah.
It's just like a brilliant fucking name. Now, I haven't seen the videos of. I mean, the only videos I've ever seen are not even video, fucking Batman, where he gets taken.
No, there's actually videos on them testing it, and it looks almost violent. But after reading a little bit on it, they said it looks violent, but because it has like a super long rope and everything. And as it picks you up, it kind of just linearly accelerates you and swings you up. So it might look pretty abrupt, but they said it's actually not bad at all.
Really?
So, and they just kind of hoist you into the plane, which is super cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One thing I thought about that when I like first read about it. I was like, how is that not just like a complex way of killing someone? Like a fucking jet, like a jet, like whatever the minimum speed of a jet is still fucking breakneck compared to standing still.
I think they were using propeller planes that were a bit slower, but still, yeah.
I mean, dude, even 50 miles an hour would be insane. But to just get yanked, but yeah, I imagine they'd have to work that out. I'm sure it has, like you said, linearly, but it probably has some give, I would imagine.
If it's a smooth and linear fashion for deceleration or acceleration, it's actually not that bad. Mm-hmm. Two examples that come to mind is one acceleration I rode when I was in Abu Dhabi, the fastest roller coaster in the world, and it goes 0 to 149 miles an hour in, I think, 4 seconds, which sounds super abrupt, but because it's such a smooth and linear acceleration, it's not bad at all.
Okay.
And then the other thing I think of is in skydiving, whenever we have parachute openings, you can have a hard opening and go from 120 miles an hour vertically to probably 20 or 30 in about a second, 2 seconds max. And while those hurt and can injure you, it doesn't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah.
As long as it's linear and not a spike like a car crash, where it's like a sustained 40 Gs for, 10 milliseconds or something when shit starts ripping off internally, then you're okay.
Yeah. So no jetpack?
Not that I can see, but in my heart, I want to believe there is a use for those.
Yeah. Yeah. God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. For an emergency, that means you also got them. It's not like you're carrying them around in like your Humvee or something.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a Humvee, chances are you're not doing some like Delta Force or DevGru shit. Like.
Yeah, because those are not the most subtle vehicles.
I mean, just in general, if you have that much support or anything, you're probably not in like that much of like a denied access area. You're probably not. You're not behind enemy lines in a fucking MRAP. You're going in fucking Rambo. Sam Fisher
We
style.
did have a interesting way of emergency exfiltration called SPIES whenever I was doing the special operations aviation stuff, commonly called dope on a rope. But basically you just take this helicopter, and I think I might have a picture still if I can get it to show up this time, and you just have this big ass rope hanging below a helicopter, and you drop it down in between trees or whatever, and then everybody hooks on and they just pick it up and fly off with it, and so you got a bunch of dudes hanging under it.
Oh, just one huge thing?
Just one huge thing, and just a big ball of dudes bouncing off each other. Yeah, here we go. At the end. See if I can get this to show up this time. Yeah. That's me doing that in 2014. I wasn't on the bottom. I was in the helicopter itself, but a friend snapped this picture as he was driving off post one day and I was flying. So that's probably 4 or 5 dudes there.
Jesus.
And that little bundle.
Yeah. Oh, so they're all right next to each other.
Well, they're kind of just stuck next to each other, just bouncing off. And what's funny is when you pick them up or set them down, like the rope is off to the side of the aircraft. So these are the dudes. This is the helicopter. You have to pick up and keep sliding over, because if you just pick up, they're going to just drag and run into shit and just fall over each other. And they kind of do it anyways sometimes, but you got 4 people kind of tied together. It's not the most coordinated thing in the world.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll trip on each other and just eat shit.
But I guess if you need to get them out quickly, it's, you're not.
If you get like a real tiny opening through the trees, drop the rope down, clip in, go up, head off.
Now, could you do that with the Skyhook, or are we looking at too much of a yank on like the plane? But part of me thinks it's like that'd be too much weight. Let's say you have 10 guys all coming in at like 180, so almost a ton. But then the other part of me just thinks of like a fucking like a lumbering like C-130, like that doesn't give a fuck about 180. It's like that motherfucker, like there's the one way is like that's too heavy. The part of me is like that jet doesn't give a fuck. It'll just be like boom, like maybe
like a minor bump. I mean, I would think it would be possible. I would definitely want helmets on everybody on the bottom, though, because you got 5 or 10 dudes right next to each other. You get picked up and accelerated to 130 miles an hour. Somebody's going to headbutt somebody.
Yeah. Well, and that's a thing about, like, they say, you know, of the millions of reasons why you should wear a seatbelt. But one of them's like, you know, if you don't wear a seatbelt, it's not just like, you know, you guys wear them, but I'm not going to wear mine. If anything happens, whatever, I'm fucked. It's like, no, you fuck everyone else in there, because your head is a goddamn bowling ball.
Yeah.
And they said that's what injures people the most, is someone bouncing around the car, like you said, at 40 G's for an instant. I mean, feel your head. I mean, that's a hard motherfucker. You get knocked into someone else's head. I mean, dude, that's brain injury. Like,
yeah, and like I mentioned last time, we're actually just now getting to where they are making impact-rated skydiving helmets.
Yeah.
And they came out with the first one in, like, mid-2018.
Yeah,
and it was, like, $800 or something.
That's insane. I'm talking about shit.
Yeah.
No,
you're good.
Yeah, that's like the caveman human. Like, you know, 2020, like, we should probably do this. We use helmets for riding bikes. What about jumping out of the fucking sky?
Yeah.
We'll get around to it. You know?
I think it was just, it's such a small community and there's such a limited number of items you're going to sell that the research and development cost and the fielding cost of it just makes it almost not worth selling it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like very like specific, like pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, you know, it's... Is
it possible? Sure, but is it going to be reasonably produced? No, it's going to be $800 a pill because we got to recover the research and development costs somehow. That's... Yeah, whenever people are like, that shouldn't cost anything, like, I get the human side of it. Yeah. But I also get, like, you could pull that stunt once where you'd be like, we're going to not allow you to sell it for that much. You could pull that one time with one drug. And then the next time there's some new disease pops up and some companies, should we make that? Be like, no, these fuckers are just going to yank it out from under us. So what? Yeah. It costs something like $1 billion to bring a drug to the market, go through phase 1, 2, and 3 of FDA trials. But yeah, I guess that makes sense also with helmets and shit for wingsuits. I mean, the skydiving community, like active members, I think is between 30 and 40,000 in the U.S. total, and the U.S. is a majority of the skydiving that happens in the world. Just because, like, that's who we are. We kind of invented modern skydiving. I won't take all credit for it, but we're USA. Awesome. But yeah, like, even if you sell 30,000 units, it's not a lot if you spent $1 million or more developing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one reason why some of these higher performance canopies are $4,000, $3,500 at least for one canopy, which is just a bunch of nylon and string. Is the amount of research and development in it.
Yeah.
And they might only sell 1,000 or 2,000 of these things. Ish.
Now, is there anything that, how do I word this, that the skydiving community would want that they don't have, that they could collectively tell a company, like, we will purchase this if you make it? So instead of like, should we make this really unique thing? We're only going to sell 30,000. Like, what if there were 30,000 that were like people? I guess that, I don't know. Maybe that would be like pre-orders.
I think there's probably some things you could come up with, but then again, trying to get a bunch of skydivers working together and agreeing on that is like herding cats. So.
Oh, I saw a video.
Good luck, buddy.
I saw a video of the Duck Duck Goose in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a gif of it. I saw it on Reddit, and I was like, "Oh, this is what he was talking about." And he's going, pat, and then it really is just like, whoop, just go out of the frame. I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks fun.
I have a video for you. One of my buddies sent me this the other day. He's in one of the special operations parachute demo teams, and they were in a C-17 in Key West the other day. And let's see if I can get before I press play. There you go.
Jesus.
Just right out the back, and he sent that to me. Told him he was doing the Lord's work.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Where was it?
Key West.
Key West. Jesus Christ. So, Skyhook. If you could... I'm just trying to think of, like, the maximum parameters or something like that. Like,
for
how...
skydiving or the actual, like, Skyhook original?
Skyhook. Just yeeting. Just... out of the ground.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like what the maximum. Could you do something like the dope on a rope, but with a jet?
I mean, if you slowed it down enough, you could pick someone up.
I'm just thinking
But
like what would
jets
be
usually don't fly that slow.
yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like what would be like would there be an equivalent of like what I'm just thinking like okay somewhere something that is prepared and brings all of their shit presidential motorcade. I had a kid on yesterday. He just got his pilot's license.
Yeah, I watched
He's
the
8. Oh yeah,
he's
he's 8
to me last night.
Dude, yeah, I thought he was. I literally thought he was gonna be like a grown man. Like he
No,
came
you
on.
can get a pilot's license at like 15 or 16.
Yeah, we came on. I was like, yeah, hey, like, he's like, yeah, I'm 18, and I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, you have your pilot.
Yeah.
I thought I was being like trolled for a second. I was like, is this kid fucking with me? But
Okay. Some of my friends were flying jets at 22 or 23.
that's insane. But
Yeah.
we were talking about he saw Air Force one time, and he's like, and he came with like 2 C5 Galaxies, and they have the whole motorcade in there. They got all the
Beast in there.
Yeah, they got the Beast. They got the ambulances. They got they got the Suburbans. They got like the communication support. They got everything. So that's a group. That's a fucking posse that rolls deep, and everywhere they go. And they're not, if they're behind enemy lines, they're still rolling deep. So that's something like, wave to the NSA and the FBI. If you were going to ambush presidential motorcade, you would do it in a foreign nation, because it's already pretty much a suicide mission. So you're going to want to increase the chances of your success. The 1 or 2 steps you can take to help you would be not to do it on American soil. You'd at least want to do it, like Africa or China or something. What better way to take out the opponent? That's where you would do it. It would still be suicide. So something like
Absolutely.
that. I've wondered, like, I wonder if like the Beast has some like equivalent. Stay with me. Some equivalent of like Skyhook to get it to the airport where Air Force One is. Like
To get the vehicle itself there, or
the
just
vehicle
the
itself, or perhaps the president. Maybe like there's a literal like a pod can rip out of the Beast. But yeah, I mean, if you're, let's say you're in North Korea. Say they fucking broker some deal and we go over there and it's, what a great PR value, and they fucking attack, and they barricade because they're in their home turf, you're in their country.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how well we prepare for it, doesn't matter how well the Secret Service plans ahead. Ultimately, you're at a disadvantage because
it's like Home Alone.
Yes, exactly, perfect. No matter how big your sphere of choppers, of cars, of agents. It is limited. Outside that sphere, you're in that nation. So, let's say they attack and you got to get to the airport. And let's say you can't get there. Like, what other way would there be than to have some fucking, like, bulletproof, like, Mylar balloon?
I think balloons, tactically speaking, are not the best thing ever, because balloons tend to not be very fast.
Yes, tactical balloon. Well, I mean, like a Skyhook type
balloon.
thing. Yeah, tactical balloons. Like a Skyhook type thing. You'd want, right?
I mean, it's possible, but here's the other thing. Presidents are usually old and relatively frail.
Yeah.
So I think subjecting them to sudden jerks like that, and then having them just being a dangling target over somewhere that they've already kind of planned out a pretty good attack.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there he is. Yeah. Or in the least, just shoot a bunch of holes in the balloon. You're like, oh, there he goes. Coming down. There he is.
You're ruining my fun.
Isn't that what you had me on here for?
It is. Yeah, well, I was just thinking, like, the Secret Service has done crazier shit. In Raven Rock by Garrett Graff, I always talk about that book. It's one of my favorite books. It's about all the nuclear bunkers in the United States.
Those things are awesome.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, there's like the 3 main ones, like Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, Site R, Raven Rock, and then Mount Weather, and then you've got like the president like under the White House. But apparently Eisenhower built like a ton of them, so it wasn't just you go to one or the other. He called it the relocation arc. So there's just like a spectrum of them. So it's like no matter where you are, you can get underground, because it's like once a thermonuclear blast happens, he's like, there's no like duck and cover and now we're gonna go. It's like no, it's the sun is now over the city. Instead of 93 million miles away, the sun is now 5,000 feet up. But they go through the Secret Service and all the crazy shit they have planned out. I mean, going back through all the presidencies, and one of them was a JADO or RADO for Air Force One, right? And I'd always thought about like, there's no way Air Force One doesn't have something like that. The logical part of me is like, it's a 747. There's no fucking way. Like, I've watched documentaries on Air Force One, and they always say like it has about as much in common with the 747 as the name and like the shape. But they're like
I think they're technically called like VC-130s or something.
Yeah, they're like, these things are like from the inside out. They are
rebuilt.
Yeah, and they are. I mean, that's why they use that. That's why they're not doing the Airbus A380, is because they're like, the 747s are built in America. And it's not just some like buy American thing. It's like, no, they're literally, they watch it being constructed from the ground up. You can't have any foreign listening devices, you know, molded into the whatever, you know, the walls. But yeah, so part of me is like, it's a 747. There's no way it's going to be, there's no way they're going to have that. But then the other part of me is like, it's the fucking Secret Service. Like,
they have some swoopy stuff on that. I know they have countermeasures on that for heat-seeking missiles and stuff like that. Yeah. And I would bet they probably have an escape pod on there, but I don't know.
They better.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And I mean, they're also rated against electromagnetic pulses.
Yeah.
Right. That and the Doomsday plane, the E-4B. But so I always thought, like, let's say you're in a fucking foreign area, and they got to get this thing off the ground. Point I'm getting at is in Raven Rock, they talk about on 9/11 and wherever it was in Florida, and they said that there's police officers. He got like direct quotes from like the police officers of the nearby airport, because you know it's like the motorcade like screeched there, and then they were like, shut everything off, like we're going now. And but there's direct reports from like officers on the ground saying like, I'd never seen a 747 take off like that. And like, it wasn't a steep incline, like, oh, they're really going. It was like, they said it was almost surreal, because I was just watching, like, one of the guys was like, it just went nose up, vertical. And they said it just climbed into the clouds. And it was, they said there was no like plume, but they said it sounded like the rolling thunder of a rocket. And one of the people on, got a quote from one of the people on board, and I guess one of the Secret Service agents like leaned over and said there's only 2 planes in the world that can take off like this, and they're both Air Force One. And the pilot, I can't remember his name, but he said it's the only time they'd ever used it, and they said it was a jet assist or a rocket assisted takeoff. So when I think about just like insane shit like that, that's what makes me think like, well, what the fuck else is there?
You would like the, have you seen the video of the C-130 they modified?
The Blue Angel one?
No, not that one. The one they tried to modify for... Yeah, the Blue Angel one's cool. But I think it was for like the Iran hostage crisis, because they wanted to land a C-130 in a stadium and then take it back off. And so they were doing testing. Like, it's great for taking off by all means, but when it comes to landing, they accidentally fired it like a little bit too early, and it just kind of stopped and fell and just broke the wings off and everything. And they were like, yeah, that's not a good idea.
Operation Credible Sport. They had
something like that. Yeah.
They had the fucking the JADO bottles that would stick out, but then they also took them and they put them on the front too. So it was break immediately and take off immediately. But that's the shit that makes me think like, is it crazy? Like, is it? Oh, sure, it's crazy. Is it improbable? I think there's just part of me that wants it to be true.
I'm sure they have some fancy stuff on there.
Yeah. So
I do know that you can also, when it comes to jets and stuff like that, there's like takeoff thrust, and then I forget what they call it. There's like emergency thrust or something like that, where it gives you like an extra couple percent. But I don't know that it's enough to make it climb like ungodly steep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know what. I mean, it makes sense that you would never hear about it until because like the last thing you want to do is that's part of having an edge is not letting anyone know that this capability exists.
Yeah, instead of needing 8,000 feet to take off or 10,000 feet, you got 3,000 and you're good to go.
Yeah. So it makes sense that it's like no one knew about it until 9/11. It's like because they thought they thought that people had stingers at the end of the runway.
Yeah.
In reality, they didn't. That's just, I guess, fog of war or adrenaline. But yeah, so because I messaged a guy who's a 747 pilot and I tried to get him on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I said no. I was like, okay, but he was a 747 pilot because I remember he commented on what I had posted about the justice to takeoff for Air Force One, because I posted it on one of the subreddits where it's just all like classified technology.
Oh yeah.
And I posted on that one. I was like, this would absolutely the concept isn't classified, but it being present on Air Force One would absolutely be classified, and of course it would be used on 9/11, and everyone was like, this is stupid, this didn't happen. But one guy commented, the 747 pilot, and he was like, as a 747 pilot, he's like, there's a few times where like I think he flew cargo, and he's like, where we had like empty planes and like,
oh, they're quick.
He's like, and just for shits and giggles we'd go full like engine power, and he's like, those things handle like a sports car. He's like, you can get them going. He's like, now Air Force One, where I mean, they only have like 100 passengers, like everyone total. Therefore, it's not a 747 loaded out with people. It's
and cargo and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he's like, that thing loaded up. He's like, I absolutely see it possible, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I have the same friend that was flying jets at like 22 or 23. He flies CRJs, I believe, which are just like the regional jets. You've probably flown on one out of Atlanta plenty of times. But when those things are empty, they can climb at like 6,000 feet a minute or something like that, which is just ungodly fast.
Yeah.
And those things handle like little sports cars too. I remember he told me that he was climbing so fast one time and they weren't paying enough attention because they got an unrestricted climb approved, so just as fast as they could. And he ended up over pressurizing the cabin because it couldn't bleed the pressure out quick enough as it went up, and so the pressure differential was getting higher than it should have been, and so they started getting like master warnings and stuff like that. And
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
man, I think I just want it to be true, you know.
It probably happened, man.
I don't know, I'm destroyed my hopes and dreams of a badass Secret Service.
I didn't destroy it. I think it probably has some pretty cool stuff on there.
No, you didn't. I'm just being an asshole. Do you think Air Force One has like skydiving equipment? Again, just think worst case. Not everyone. I mean, you're saving like POTUS and maybe like one or two guards.
I would be willing to bet there is an escape pod for sure. I mean, it would logically make sense to me. It's not outside the realm of what's totally possible. And I bet there probably is some free fall equipment on there for a select few, but everyone else is going down with the ship.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this isn't for everyone. I'm talking they're going to
ride it all the way to the smoking hole in a field.
Yeah.
So
it's like the Ron White bit. It's like, one of the engines went out and there's a guy next to me who's losing his mind. He's like, hey man, how far do you think it will take us? And he goes,
all the way to the scene of the crash.
Which is convenient because that's right where we're going. Shit, we'll be paramedics by a good half hour. But yeah, it's definitely would be. I mean, back to Raven Rock, the relocation arc, and they had designated areas where like choppers would land, and not even like helipads, because again, you don't want to give away everything. So like there's like designated like end zones at like, you know, college football fields where it would just be cleared, and wherever the president is, whoever's closest, the chopper goes there. But yeah, no, it was understood even in Eisenhower's time that there's like select seats. It's like not everyone's coming. No, like next to no one is coming, actually. It's so that much would be expected. But you think I don't think an escape pod is at all out of the. I mean,
I mean, they have them for fighter jets,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
full pods.
Yeah, the XB-70, right? Was it the Valkyrie that had one, or was it?
I don't think the Valkyrie had any ejection capability. Otherwise, the one that crashed with everyone on board probably would have had more survivors.
Checkmate. True. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I know some of them have like that. It was almost like a clamshell type thing. But it's just.
I think it's the F-117 Nighthawk might have one, the stealth thing, and I think the F-111 Aardvark has one.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that have them.
Yeah. So
and I want to say there's a helicopter that has a ejection pod as well. There's one or two helicopters that have ejection seats. Obviously, the blades have to go away first, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that seems less out of the realm of possibility than rocket-assisted takeoff on a 747. And
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
No, neither do I. But in terms of like, if you want to be just like the skeptic, like, no, it's not that. It's not you in particular. I mean, like, if you're just thinking of like shooting down my fun ideas, okay, well, it was proven in that book that this is a New York Times bestseller book. This isn't some random, like, this isn't some like www.illuminatisecrets.com, not shit like that. So, but if that's possible, then to me it's like, well, anything less insane than that is possible. So yeah. I just, obviously, there's literally a video of like Trump like holding up like the new designs for like the new Air Force One, and one of the
way it looks, it actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, but there's one of the guys is maybe one of the interviewers, or he's like, does it have an escape pod? And Trump's like, what? He's like, like the movie Air Force One. He's like, yes, I've seen the movie. And he's like, no, not that I know of. But he goes, but there is some secret stuff that I don't think we can talk about. But I was like, I think there has to be an escape pod. I'm sure up until 9/11, they're like, there's no such thing as jet assisted takeoff on a 747. You dumb shit.
Yeah, 9/11 like, oh, well, we kind of had it.
9/11 happens, and they're like, yeah, this thing took off like a rocket, like just disappeared. So I don't think an escape pod is insane. I also don't think that now. But now, how would you do like skydiving from a 747? Because that would be
not smoothly. I'll tell you that.
No, it wouldn't be. No, it wouldn't be. It would be. It would be like dead POTUS versus like alive POTUS. I didn't.
How are you going to DB Cooper it out of a 747?
Exactly.
So, fun fact before I get into that, after the whole DB Cooper thing, I think he jumped out of like a DC-10 or something like that, which had the ramp straight out the back. It was like a set of stairs or whatever. After that, they modified any and all planes like that to have what's called a Cooper vane, which basically, in flight, aerodynamically, there was like a lock that would slide in place. So you couldn't open it while it was flying. Yeah. Might have just been specific to that particular type of aircraft.
Well,
but, yeah.
What was insane is, like, hijackings weren't that rare back then.
No.
You'd always hear about, like, you're sitting there, and then so-and-so just pulled out a 357, and it was like, damn it. And it's like... Again. Honey, I'm going to be late.
They used to have the cockpit doors just not there. Like, you could look up and see the pilots doing their thing.
Yeah.
It was another time.
Yeah.
But... I mean, we have today, do you know what a squawk code is for an aircraft? Basically, they give you kind of like a unique identifying number. You dial it into your transponder. They can see you on the fish finder. Well, there's certain codes there for emergencies. 7500 is hijacking, and my friends jokingly refer to it as a priority landing with escorts. So if you squawk 7500, you're going to get intercepted most likely.
Yeah.
So priority landing with escorts, they're going to force you down the closest place they can.
Yeah.
And then 7600 and 7700 are like lost communications and just emergencies and stuff like that. But you got to be really careful with that whole 7500 thing.
Yeah. There's something where I think it was like 2 years ago. There's like I don't know how I hadn't heard of it, but there's some dude that like some passenger like got out of his seat and apparently was just like standing by the cockpit. Because I saw the video on YouTube, I was like, this had to have been yesterday.
There's a couple times that airplanes have been intercepted, and they usually end up charging the person that caused it.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
That shit's not cheap.
No. But apparently this guy, like, I think it was in like 2018, but he was like standing near the cockpit, and they were like, you need to go back to your seat. And he was like, I'm not going back to my seat. So it wasn't even like an accident where it's like, here's a dude and he had like a turban on and he just so happened to like go to the bathroom near the cockpit. It's not just a bunch of like, you know, Americans like, fuck 9/11, take him down.
Yeah.
It was like a dude that just like wouldn't, he was like standing right next to it. Almost
Probably
like
drunk.
it was just like, I'm not going, and they're like, stop, and he was like, no, like I want to go in the cockpit, like. And yeah, one of the passengers was like, yeah, and next thing you know, I was looking out over my window and I just saw an F-15, and
Yep.
and
It's like Snapchat.
yeah, but they were like, yeah, we felt so safe. But I remember people were commenting, they're like, that's not an escort, that's the metaphorical bullet to that's the barrel on your head.
Yeah, that's what's shooting you down.
That's the saying, like, you're going to land, or we were going to escort you to the ground, kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, we're going to take you out over the least populated area, because it's, you know, and people being like, would they actually shoot down a plane full of people? And it's like, a plane full of people going to crash in a city full of people, or a plane full of people going down in a field. Plane full of people still going. So it's...
Well, I mean, when 9/11 happened, they scrambled the jets because they were trying to escort them and or shoot them down. But the problem was, in hindsight, it was a bad thing, but they weren't armed.
No.
They sent the jets up and said, don't let that plane make it.
Yeah, there was I forget, there's an article on her. It's I think her first name is Penny, but yeah, it was a chick that, and she was like, yeah, me and like my partner were like, all right, like, I'm gonna ram the cockpit and you're gonna ram the tail, as in case one of us miss, like, we'll still fuck it up beyond like repair. Yeah, I mean, so
I think she was flying an F-16. I remember seeing a picture of her flying it or something like that. But yeah.
So yeah, it's so with something like that, how would you DP Cooper a 747? Like, it would literally have to be. I don't think it would be like. It wouldn't be like a reflexive response. It would be like all else has failed. Like, the engines have been blown out.
X.
Yeah, it'd literally be like the engines are blown out. Like, it wouldn't even be like. It'd be sort of like they would tackle the president, like strap on the thing and just like yank it. Peace.
In the words of Austin Powers, preparations A through G have failed. Now preparation H. You probably wouldn't be able to exit out the side very easily, so you would have to have a rear exit. Also because of the speed you're exiting at. Because if you go out the side, you're either bouncing off the wing, you're hitting the engine, you're hitting the tail, and just going out and turning sideways when it's doing 400 knots or just whatever it happens to be doing at the time. Probably more than that, because if you're bailing out, it's probably crashing, and they tend to speed up right before that.
Yeah.
So 500 knots, pretty quick.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get out quickly.
Yeah, but it's like, if all else fails, do that, which then makes me think that they would probably have an escape pod. Like, if you're getting to the point where you're throwing the president out, like, you probably don't. And, you know, or what if it's enemy fighters are like closing in and you're at 40,000 feet? Like,
that's a long ride down.
Yeah.
I know, even if I'm correct, the ejection seats and stuff like that on fighters won't usually deploy the parachute until like 15,000 feet or something like that, just because the air is so thin up there and the temperatures that, like, it can reasonably kill you pretty quick if you're just floating down. It's like you're going to be in free fall for a hot minute.
Just freezing to death?
Well, it's better to be in free fall going through that altitude than under a parachute.
Yeah.
Hypoxic and, you know, running out of air to breathe.
Yeah. Guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, man, all of my Black Ops fantasies.
Yeah, sorry.
Not real. No,
but I mean, if you had to get out of the plane like that, straight out the back is going to be your best option.
Yeah. Goddamn. But that's enough. So another thing is, I think it was the same article I read that was with that pilot Penny. So they also talked about the escorts for for Air Force One. Right? They said they had escorts as this thing was just going around America.
Yeah.
The only time they'd ever had escorts above U.S. soil. But they talked about how, like, one of the F-16 pilots he talked about in this article, he was like, I remember, like, radioing them and being like, you guys gotta, like, slow down. Because, like, we can only do afterburners for so long. And they talked about how they would have these, they'd escort them in, they would literally like message bases along the predicted path, and they'd be like, 2 more are going to come up, going, and we're going to land. But it was like, because
fighter jets are not known for their endurance.
No, but
fuel consumption.
But even then, the quote was like, we were burning through our fuel so fast. He's like, because we could only use afterburners for so long. And I was like, wait, what do you? And the other one was like, yeah, like I did not know a 747 could go that fast. So it's, I don't know. To me, there's like this like shroud of mystery around Air Force One, and now I just like to imagine that it can take off goddamn near vertically, and it can go
and fly supersonic.
It can go like Mach 0.99 or something. But you're bringing me back down to reality. So
I have a friend that's one of the chief test pilots for Gulfstream. Mm-hmm. I was talking to him a couple of years ago, and he was telling me, and I was very surprised at it, that their newer jets can actually fly supersonic, even though they're not rated to.
What?
He said they will do it. And if you know anything about aerodynamics and flying and stuff like that, whenever you're flying a jet at high altitudes, you set your speed to basically a Mach number, because that's kind of the speed limit up there is the speed of sound. So you'll fly at like Mach 0.85 or 0.87 or whatever. And even when you fly real high at like Mach 0.95, that's just the reading where the probe is. There are some areas that are already going supersonic, because if you know the shape of a wing, you understand the air going over it has to accelerate. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're right near the speed of sound and the air has to accelerate going over something, you already have certain parts of the aircraft that are already breaking the sound barrier.
Now, why is it that my complete lack of aviation knowledge, why is it that, I remember seeing like a Photoshop, it was like a B-52 like breaking the sound barrier.
Yeah, with the cone coming off the front.
Yeah, and it was like, someone was like, it's not even like that the technology doesn't exist. Like, you could definitely put enough engines and rockets on it to get it going. It was just like, structurally it would break apart.
Yeah.
What is, so breaking the sound, that's not just like a number that you're hitting. Like,
no, it's a variable number, but basically you're outrunning your own shockwave.
Yeah.
More or less.
So Gulfstream, so it could go that fast, but would it like destroy it?
I think they were just in the testing phase. I don't remember specifics because it was many years ago when I talked to them about it. And obviously it's designed to handle it, but it's just not good for fuel consumption. I'm sure it could overstress some stuff very easily. He's also the same person that told me they might have accidentally inverted one time doing some testing, but that's another story. And also the same dude that told me on one of the newer jets they were testing, this was years ago, that they got into some high speed wobbles and almost crashed at like 40,000 feet or something. You know how like you get speed wobbles on a skateboard? It was the same thing in a jet going like
Jesus Christ.
Fast. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's why you make the big bucks, buddy.
Yeah. That was like well there's a what is it? There's a term for it. But I was watching on YouTube, and it was like the A380, but they were testing like its durability at like supersonic, and you go up to whatever your max altitude is, and then they just
flutter testing.
Flutter, yes. And you go down and they just dive it, and they they'll do this like several times, and there's like however many instruments on every like square inch of the plane. You're just getting because you only got to do it once.
You should watch some of the YouTube videos on flutter that they've developed over time. Like the C-130, there's one where you can see the whole wing just flexing like this.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they will actually do.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to do high-speed flutter testing.
Yeah, and it was the guys like piloting in like the A380, and like they all had.
I watched that video before too. You can see them in there kind of just bouncing a little bit.
Yeah. But I remember they were wearing like helmets, parachutes, and like orange jumpsuits, and it was like they're not gonna be able to parachute out of there. And someone was like, that's kind of just like a formality. The real safety is the orange jumpsuit, so they can find your body. And it was like, fuck.
I bet they probably did have an ability to bail out, because my same friend that worked for Gulfstream, I got a private tour of the facility and one of their test platforms many years ago, and it was one of the stripped out ones that just had instrumentation and everything. And I looked up, and there was just this big fat rope that went basically all the way from the cockpit through the cabin all the way to the very back. I'm like, hey, what's that for? And he was like, so in the event that we have to bail out, there's no clean way to do it from the front. We have to get to the back. And it's probably spinning and tumbling, and so, we won't be able to walk
hold on to
smoothly. So take it all the way to the back, just bouncing off the walls and stuff. And there was just this little hatch under the engine that you could kind of just bail out, not get sucked into it. And there actually is a video because they had to certify this door, this modification, to be jumped out of. And I think they did a tandem out of it or something like that. I think there's a video of it for Gulfstream, but that was a formality as well. Like, realistically speaking, are you going to be able to make it to the back if anything goes catastrophically wrong near the speed of sound? Probably not, but like, it's nice to have the option. At least I die more comfortably.
It's like, it's like the safety, like the
illusion of safety.
Yeah, it's like the safety pamphlets on planes. It's like, I saw something, and again, just stupid conspiracy, but I love it. Someone was like, no, the reason why they have you like hug your legs and put your head down
is it breaks your neck faster.
It breaks your neck, and it's cheaper to do a one-time life insurance payout than do a lifetime of
I think that's from Fight Club, because I know there was a thing where he's like, the oxygen is to make you feel euphoric.
Yeah, that's Fight Club. Yeah. God damn it, am I quoting just like an edgy movie?
Jesus. No, I get you. I think the Mythbusters actually did some testing on that too, and they found out the brace position is the best thing. And then I watched a video the other day that somebody posted, I think on the skydiving subreddit, about them purposely crashing like that remote controlled giant ass passenger plane. And I was watching all the way through it, and they had like people in different positions, and they had G meters all through it. And it was actually super fascinating. It was like an hour-long documentary on it because it was on the Discovery Channel. But it works.
Yeah, because if you don't, apparently, like, you fly under the seat in front of you.
Submarining,
yeah, that's a nice euphemism for Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, that thing
just folding in half and fitting under the seat in front of you.
Bends you in half like a piece of construction paper.
Yeah, Jeez. And what was cool was even like, you've probably seen the video where they bounce it off the desert and like the front breaks off and everything. The people in the front were subjected to 12 Gs, which is high, but not crazy. And then the people in the back were only subjected to 6 Gs in a jet crash. Like, it really wasn't that bad.
No, like,
you'd be sore,
all
but
things
like
considered, it was. There's this comedian back in like the early 2000s. I don't remember the rest of the bit, but he's like a car crash. It's EMT comes and it's like, is there anybody alive, or are they just vegetables? And it was like a plane crash is like, is anyone recognizable, or are they just minerals? It's like, yeah, dude, there's no real safe way to go from that. But there in B-52s, there are stories of like bailing out. Is that not? So that's not
the Stratofortress. I think they actually have ejection seats, and again, somebody should double check me on this, but I think they actually have some that fire out the bottom.
Yeah, because it was Command and Control by Eric Schlosser. It's just about all the the nuclear kind of mishaps over the years.
Broken Arrow incidents. There is a disturbingly long list of them, and Wikipedia has a bunch of them.
Yeah. But they talk about just all, there's like the primary ones people hear about, but they're like the most dangerous thing about like the hydrogen bombs. Like, it isn't like the bombs themselves are anything can go off, but they're like, they still contain high explosives.
Yeah, and when you break them apart, there's a lot of radioactive stuff that goes everywhere.
But they're like, even just the acute explosion.
Yeah, like, substantial.
They're like, it's not tiny. It's you never see it, because if it goes right, if it goes correct, there's the explosion that it collapses the core, and you use a fission bomb to set off the fusion bomb.
Yeah.
But they're like, in the rare case that it doesn't work, it's not just like it doesn't work. There's still,
it's not just a poof.
Yeah, there's still a very big explosion. Yeah. And they said that so for the Stratofortress, said there were a couple times where they weren't sure if they were going to go off, so they had everyone I think the one where they lost an H-bomb in Italy or Spain or something.
I think it was Greece, maybe.
Something like that. One of those. It was. But yeah, that
contaminated the whole area.
Yeah, they talked about everyone bailing out, and some landed in the ocean, some landed on hillsides and shit.
Just wherever you happen to be.
But yeah, now how would So do each of them have like a downward facing escape pod, or are they just jumping out the fucking sides or back? I'm asking you, like, what? How would it be?
Man, I don't know. I've never really researched it that much. I think the crew probably. I doubt they have a huge crew. You know, it's probably not more than like 10 people or something like that. And I would assume they would just have their own seats or bailout rigs they could clip on real quick and go out the side or something. I'm not really sure. Yeah. I think a lot of times it's just like, we hope you survive. It's not going to be easy, smooth, or whatever else. It's just like, this is better than burning in.
Well, it's like if you don't jump, you're dead. You know, it's
100% chance of death.
100% chance you're dead.
Yeah, if you do jump, it's a big question mark, but the question mark is less than 100%.
It's like less than or equal to 100%. But if you stay in, it is 100 across the board. Like, goodbye.
Yeah, like in skydiving, I feel like I should know these altitudes off the top of my head, but I think we usually say anything under 1,500 feet, if there's a catastrophic problem with the aircraft, it's best to stay with it or stay seat belted in, unless the wing comes off, and then at that point it's just like, do your best.
Yeah.
Essentially, like when it comes to like for tandons, because I have someone, and the person in front of me doesn't have a parachute, they're relying on me, and it basically just says, get one hook on out of the 4, go out and just hope. So, I mean, it's a better chance of survival than staying with the plane if the wing comes off or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes...
I only need one hook of the 4.
Yeah.
Because the 2 on top are rated for 5,000 pounds each. The 2 on the bottom are 2,500 pounds each. So even if we only get the bottom one, like, you're going to be dangling below me very uncomfortably, but we have a good chance of survival if we can get out in time.
But what about, like, the acute forces? Like, you may only...
Chances are you're not going to be able to get out.
Yeah.
It's going to be spinning.
Yeah.
And you're going to be stuck to the walls.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, like, yeah, they're, you know, you could say one hook is rated for 2,500 pounds. Like me, let's say I weigh 200 pounds. Like, sure, that's a lot less than 2,500. But that instant, like, pulling out, like, that's a lot more than 200 pounds. That's...
Well, let's say for easy math, you're 250 pounds. That means it would take a 10G opening shock to break you loose of that. And per the book, I know it actually says it's the top left one first. And so that's a 5,000 pounder. And honestly, that's going to be much quicker for me to get hooked up than a bottom one. Just clip right next to me.
Is 10 Gs like a lot more than it would, than like a normal? I don't know what's normal.
I think a normal parachute opening is 1.5 to 2.5.
Oh, okay.
It's really not a lot. They're actually designed to open smoothly.
Yeah.
People think you want a parachute that like instantly opens. No, it hurts.
Yeah.
It is phenomenally. The opening G's can be phenomenally high for something that's made out of strings and fabric.
Yeah.
When it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But I think hard openings are usually in the area of 8 to 10 G's, and I do know people that have actually been knocked out by opening forces when it went wrong. And I've had one that it opened so hard and so fast. Not only did I have bruises where the harness was, but like involuntary noises came out of me, like, and I went from about 120 to probably 20 or 30 miles an hour in about a second.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe slightly more, second and a half. Yeah, and that was a hard opening. And the parachute was okay.
Yeah. Completely
undamaged and unharmed. And like when you do the math on that, there's thousands of pounds of force on that thing.
Yeah.
Potentially. So
yeah, I mean it's however many.
It's amazing for strings and fabric.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. What magazine?
So there's a magazine called Parachutist Magazine that you get with your subscription to the USPA, or is an option to, and they actually posted some an article a couple magazines ago on them destructive testing stuff as far as the harness systems go for these rigs, and even the leg straps were tested up to something like 4,500 pounds before they started to fail.
Jesus Christ.
So, like, what I tell people is it would take collectively something like, I did the math one day, it was like 15,000 pounds of force for this rig to start tearing itself apart. And if at any point in time in the skydive we encounter that much force, we already have some other problems to deal with, so just don't even worry about it.
You have greater problems to deal with.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these things really are over-designed. And like we talked about last time, the gear really doesn't fail. It's the jumper.
Yeah.
It's the skydiver.
Yeah.
It's a human part.
Yeah.
So...
Jesus Christ. Show
Yeah,
me,
but like I have my
show me
rig
your-
right
I was gonna
here.
say- I was about to say, pull it out. Whip that bitch
So,
out.
mine's not terribly large. It's about the smallest size they make, and so this
Dude,
is it.
literally walk me through it. Like, explain what all
All
of it
right.
is.
So this is a skydiving rig, a free fall rig, and I keep catching my damn headphones on this. All right, so we have 2 parachutes in here. We have the reserve up top, so that's the backup, and then we have the main parachute on the bottom, and then to deploy it, basically, see that little curved pin right there? That's what holds back the parachute. So when it's time for me to deploy, reach around, I grab this little handle right here, kind of hard to see,
No,
and I throw it out. And basically, it's a pilot chute. So it's a tiny little parachute that pulls out a big parachute. These stupid things.
you're good.
Yeah. Little parachute pulls out a big parachute, and it deploys. So let's say you have a problem with your main parachute, which I've had really one time in 2,300 jumps. I have a handle here, and I didn't get it embroidered with this. It was the previous owner. It says smart. And I think that's just because it was smart to cut it away. But if I pull this handle, everything releases and goes away for the main parachute. It's a single point release system. Pull this other handle right down here, second parachute comes out.
So wait, what? Then what's the back handle for? What's the little thing in the back for?
Deploying the main parachute.
Okay, and that's
This one gets rid of the main parachute. This one brings out a reserve parachute.
Okay, so
That's it.
why? So you have your 2 chutes because your 1 is none, 2 is 1. Now
You have to have one more than you intend to use.
yeah.
As we talked about.
But the little one that brings out the big one that doesn't count as a
That just creates drag to pull out the big one.
okay. So
It's a pilot chute, yeah.
So you would be but that would do absolutely nothing for you if you had to use that.
No, absolutely not. It's only like, I think, average size is like 28 inches
Oh, okay.
wide.
Okay, so you're
Which,
okay.
No, it's not enough to substantially slow you down.
It would delay your death by like a millisecond.
Honestly, with those behind you, depending on the orientation you're falling in, that amount of drag can turn you upright and make you more aerodynamic, so it actually could kill you faster. But even that little bitty pilot chute that we have, like a 28-inch pilot chute at 120 miles an hour, has something like 150 pounds of pull force behind it. It's like they're pretty strong.
Yeah. So the smart one, that is.
Yep.
So
that gets rid of the main parachute if there's a problem.
If there's a problem, that gets rid of the main one. Now, how does that get? Does it just unleash it? Just
All right. So, have you ever heard of a 3-ring system?
no.
3-ring release. All right. Cool. So, this is a 3-ring system. So we have our big ring, our middle ring, and our little ring. And basically, it's like a lever system. And I watched a video on this the other night, and they basically said it was something like between 100 to 1 and 200 to 1 advantage ratio with this. So no matter how much force is under this, there's only a couple pounds required to release it, which is pretty smart. And there's a little cable. See this little yellow cable behind it?
Yeah.
Can you see how the little yellow cable goes through a white loop?
Yes.
See that white loop is holding down the little ring.
Okay.
As soon as that white loop is released, they unfurl and it releases. And it's the same thing on either side. And if you look at this cutaway handle, you see the 2 little yellow cables? You're just directly releasing it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how that works.
So the little chute, the pilot chute, that pulls out the big one, but that's just for deploying it. That's not.
Yes, that's for deploying.
And so
there is a pilot chute for the reserve, but it's packed inside of here, and it's got a spring in it. So whenever you release the reserve, it shoots out and away into clean, smooth air to extract everything.
So you actually have 4.
I guess you could kind of consider
just
pilot chutes a parachute.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about pieces. So like you have 4. So you have.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn. So you pull the thing in the back. And that deploys the pilot chute, and the pilot chute pulls out the main chute, correct?
Yep.
And then let's say there's a problem with your main chute, whatever. For whatever reason, you pull smart.
Yep.
And that just releases all of it. That doesn't
You can get these handles to say anything you want in any color. I want some that say eject and air brake on them.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's kind of clever, but I just don't feel like paying for it.
Yeah, no.
I've seen like Control X and then Control N. Just all like oh shit and just whatever else. Plan A, plan B.
Control Alt Delete. Like
yeah.
And then to get rid of the main one, for that just releases. There's no pilot chute that pulls out the main one if it's fucked up. It's just you just release it. You're just cutting it, right?
Pretty much. If I just sat here and pulled this, it wouldn't do anything because nothing has been released from this. Okay. It would just sit in there.
Okay.
So.
All right. And now you're at your second chute.
Yep.
How do you deploy the second chute?
So the second chute, there's multiple ways it can be deployed, and it's basically just got a, you can see the pin in there as well. As soon as that pin is released, it goes out and away, and you can see that lead seal on there, and that's an FAA certified rigger seal to show that it's not been tampered with. If it's broken, I have to get it fixed before I jump. But there's a couple ways to deploy these things. The easiest way is just pull the handle, but there's a couple inventions that kind of help you out. One is called an RSL. So this little red tab here, one end of it, it's a lanyard. One end is connected to my main parachute. The other end of it is connected to the pin to release my reserve.
Okay.
So as soon as I separate from that main parachute, when I cut it away, it pulls the reserve out on its way, or it pulls the pin to release it. So that helps me get it out faster. The other thing you can have is a sky hook, like we previously mentioned, where it uses the main parachute that's going away to completely pull the reserve parachute out.
Okay.
And then you have what's called an AAD, which is our automatic activation device, or the computer in here. Once you're licensed, they're optional, but they're highly encouraged. And basically, if you get knocked unconscious in free fall, that'll release my reserve parachute.
Below a certain altitude or something?
2 parameters. It's altitude above a certain vertical speed, below a certain altitude.
Okay. All right. So I'm just trying to.
And those are mandatory for all non-licensed skydivers and all tandems, period, across the board. So, like, even if I'm taking someone on a tandem and I get knocked out, that'll save us.
Okay. I'm just trying to, like. So normal jump, you go down, you pull the little one in the back, pulls out the pilot, right, or releases the pilot. Pilot yanks out big one, float down to happiness.
Little one pulls out big one. Okay. Everything works fine.
Big one's fucked up. You have to manually pull smart, or just
one handle releases everything.
And will that automatically take out the second one, or is that just an option? Because you said there's
on my rig, it will, because I have an RSL. RSLs are not mandatory for licensed skydivers. It's something that's encouraged, and most people have them, but you don't necessarily have to. If you don't have an RSL and you don't have an AAD, the automatic activation device that'll deploy your reserve parachute if you get knocked unconscious, you have the rest of your life to pull this little handle right here.
Okay.
However long or short that may be, you have the rest of your life to figure it out.
Okay. So, all right. So one of the ways that the secondary would be released is it would use the primary as a pilot.
Basically, one big ass pilot chute.
Big ass pilot chute. But if your primary is malfunctioning,
it creates drag still, and that's all that matters.
Okay. It's still enough to, even if it's fucked up, and that's still.
It doesn't matter if it's fucked up. It's creating drag, and that drag is so substantial it can pull the reserve canopy completely out and open.
Okay.
It's called a MARD device, a main assisted reserve deployment.
Okay. That's
a category it falls in. Skyhook is a particular one that's been created. My rig does not have a Skyhook system because when I bought it, it was not equipped with one. I could send it back and get it equipped for a couple $100s, but that would take my rig out of service for a long time. So I use it regularly. Don't be a dumbass and you'll be okay.
Yeah. And now, so if the primary is being used as a big ass pilot, what happens to the pilot in the second one? It just comes out cast aside.
Yeah.
That doesn't interfere with anything?
No. That one is actually called a free bag, or it's a pilot chute connected to a free bag, which means it just goes away. It's not connected to anything. So once the reserve parachute deploys, it just kind of floats off.
Okay.
And you kind of got to go find those unless you want to pay for another one.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of expensive.
So, I'm tying my shoe.
You're good.
So, oh no, wait, bring it back.
You want me to put it on for you?
You can.
All right. Oh, missed that one.
All right.
You can talk. I can
Yeah,
do
okay.
multiple things.
All right. I can't. I'm stupid, so I project it onto others. So how would you pull the primary one? Okay.
That little guy right there.
Okay. And I'm just trying to think. So the God damn it, one of my dogs crying. Okay. Little one in the back.
That deploys it. This is the primary from here down.
Okay. And then that one fucks up. You pull that guy.
Yep.
And or not if that one fucks up. Oh yeah, no. If that one fucks up, that's what releases. And you can use that. That will act as the pilot for the secondary one, right?
If you have a skyhook equipped system. If not, it's with me because I have this RSL here. It's still going to pop the reserve out. It's going to even beat me to this handle. It's so quick to do it. We still teach doing it.
So if the big one doesn't act as a pilot,
the main canopy doesn't act as a pilot chute, then I can still manually deploy it, or my RSL will pop it out already.
Wait. Then what's the RSL?
Reserve static line. It's a lanyard that connects between the main parachute and the pin that holds my reserve in.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's
multiple options for how you can get it out, depending on what equipment your equipment is equipped with.
Yeah. No, I mean it's smart as fuck. Yeah, there's multiple ways for it. So, then, in what scenario would the big one not act as a big broken pilot?
If you don't have a MARD device, a main assisted reserve deployment, a skyhook installed, it would not do that.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of...
It's an option.
Yeah.
It's an extra option you have to get added on.
But the RSL, it kind of seems like it's the same thing then. Then doesn't the main one, it releases what? It releases a pin in the RSL?
Yeah. The RSL, if you have an RSL that fires off the reserve, it just releases a pilot chute for the reserve, and that reserve pilot chute now has to pull out the reserve parachute. Whereas with a MARD device, a skyhook, it uses that bad main parachute to completely pull everything out.
Okay.
Which is great because it saves a lot of altitude, especially if you have slow malfunctions. So say your parachute's open, but you have a problem with it. It's slowed you down. Instead of doing 120, you're doing 30 miles an hour vertical.
Okay.
Now let's say you spent a little too much time troubleshooting it and you're now very, very low. Say you're at 1,000 feet and you realize, oh crap, I cannot land this parachute. At 1,000 feet, you'd be cutting it really close without a skyhook to cut away and deploy a reserve because your airspeed's not high. There's not enough drag to pull everything out. There's been a number of skydivers killed because of late emergency sequences. They waited too long and they hit the ground when the reserve canopy wasn't inflated yet because it couldn't come out quickly. So a skyhook pulls it out so quickly. They even have, I think, like a promo video for it where they do like 100-foot cutaway, 150-foot cutaway above the ground, and he still has time for the parachute to fully inflate and for him to land it up. It's like standing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a skyhook is an amazing thing to have.
Okay. And so in what scenario are you left where you have to manually deploy the second one?
If you do not have an AED, which is the computer that deploys it, if you do not have an RSL, and you do not have a skyhook.
MARD?
MARD.
MARD,
yeah.
okay.
MARD is the category. It's in main assisted reserve deployment. Skyhook is just a particular type.
Okay.
It's patented.
All right. So skyhook would use the... I'm just...
No,
because I can get a better... I guess have a better conversation if I kind of understand what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
So, and this is, if you can't tell, this is how I learn, is I just keep...
No, man, that's fine.
That's pre-med bullshit coming out.
Skyhook is actually a patented design. I guess it's kind of trademarked. And there's another skydiving gear company that their version of the Skyhook, they call it the trap system, which I think is a terrible name for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's basically the same thing. It's a MARD system.
So, big one fucks up. Big one a MARD that will use the big one as a pilot.
Yes.
In RSL, the big one will release...
When you separate from it, it just pulls the pin on its way out.
And that will release your second pilot.
Yes.
And that will pull out your second chute.
Yes, your reserve.
Oh, your reserve, okay. Both of those don't work. You got your little computer chip. What is it called?
AED, automatic activation device.
Okay. That will deploy the reserve certain vertical speed and certain altitude, whichever comes first.
As long as you reach both parameters. Because say you're really low and you're really slow, you're not going to be able to reach the parameters for it to fire. And the way it works is...
Oh, you have to hit both? I thought wouldn't it make sense for it to be like almost like a car warranty, like 100,000 miles, or if something breaks?
There is no warranty on the devices. It tells you that it is not really a life-saving device. It is intended to be, but it is not 100%. And there are a number of saves from these things. And the way they work is that little loop that the pin goes through the cutter. So whenever a cutter fires, it just severs that loop and everything comes flying out. It releases it.
So it wouldn't work if you're below X. So if it checked off the altitude, like box, okay, we're below whatever. What is it set at for altitude?
Like on mine, I believe I have to be at 760 feet, doing 78 miles per hour vertical for it to fire. So if I'm at, we'll say 500 feet, doing 60 miles per hour vertical, it doesn't meet the parameters for it to fire. Say I were to cut away at 500 feet. The AED is not going to fire because I'm already going too slow. Also, these AEDs are designed to deactivate under a certain altitude, which sounds dangerous, but it's actually a safety thing because with these higher performance parachutes, when we dive them towards the ground, there's been multiple people that have actually reached both parameters at 300 feet and deployed a second parachute and potentially killed themselves or greatly injured themselves because now you have two parachutes coming out. And when that happens in that scenario, they typically fly opposite directions and both of those directions are down.
Yeah.
So.
It definitely makes sense that you want it to deactivate below a certain. It's like it's like before podcasts. Like I always meditate, but I always set like 2 alarms.
Yeah.
So it will. Yeah, and it's. But I don't put them at the same time. I always have them at different times because you don't want. So, it makes sense that you don't want them to go off below a certain, because it's like you don't want it to just deploy at. You don't want it to just deploy at 500 feet because let's say everything's just going peachy, and you're just floating down at 500 feet.
And then suddenly it goes off. That's a problem.
Yeah, you don't need that. But I guess it makes sense because if you have to be at a certain altitude and certain speed, and you don't, I guess, match those requirements, that means that you're probably not free fall.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was confused. I was just thinking like, if you're falling, you'd want it to go off no matter what. No, that makes sense because if you're not.
And here's a good one for you to think about. With a wingsuit, you can actually fly with an AED that's turned on, functioning properly. You could fly that wingsuit all the way to impact because you're not going to meet both parameters.
Okay.
So my wingsuit, for example, my vertical speed, I can get it down into the 30 mile an hour range. So I could be flying and fly at 30 miles an hour as long as I'm not above 78 miles per hour vertical, below 750 feet or something like that. It's not going to check both boxes and fire off. I could fly that thing right into the ground if I wanted to. Now, they have wingsuit-specific AEDs now. I don't know how they've made them work.
I was going to say, how would you...
That is beyond me. I don't know.
Fuck that,
but
you can figure it out. No, fuck that, you can figure it out.
Well, here's the other thing is there is a video a couple years ago of a guy in a very large wingsuit. With a lot of drag, and he had a problem with his main canopy and had to cut away. He did not have an RSL to deploy his reserve parachute when he cut away, when he separated from it. He had an AED, but he could not reach his reserve deployment handle down here because in the commotion of things, it got pulled inside of his wingsuit.
Oh, fuck.
And he knew that he had to meet both of those parameters for that AED to fire. So he tucked into a ball to speed up.
Break the speed. And it
Because he
worked?
had to check that vertical speed box
Did it work?
below a certain. It worked.
Fuck yeah.
That's why we got a video. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, I guess you can pull a video of a dead guy, but
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You could. No, you definitely could.
GoPros are almost indestructible these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say more often than not, I feel like you could pull a video of a dead guy. Okay, so
Ballsy move, but it worked.
now, if you wanted to manually pull your second one, would you get? So let's say you want to do a stunt, pull your primary, and then you want to let go of it and fall for another 1,000 feet. Let's say you're just putting on a show.
You gotta have 3 parachutes for that, then.
Oh yeah. Okay, you gotta have.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Supposed to.
But even then, actually, fuck that. Let's just whatever. Let's just say you're.
I mean, I know people that have not done that, and just like it was getting time for the reserve to be repacked because every 180 days it has to be repacked and inspected.
Why is that?
And fly right over the. It's a safety thing.
Okay.
So they fly right over the landing area, like 1,500 feet or something, and just cut it away.
Yeah.
Pull the reserve, fly the reserve down.
Because they gotta take it out anyway. It's okay.
It's not the right thing to do, but it's something that people have done.
It's like using like canned food before it expires. It's like you gotta use it anyway. So if you're doing that, now is there like, it's gotta be one more than you intend to use, but hypothetically, just if you were to hypothetically have a beverage, and you're just fucking around with you and your friends, and how would you? Do you have to deactivate the MARD, AED, and RSL?
No. You could just pull the reserve handle, and the reserve's going to come out.
But if you wanted to pull your primary, float down, and then get rid of that and free fall for another 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And pull the second one, would you have to not have?
You have to disconnect the RSL so it didn't automatically deploy it.
You'd have to not have the MARD, the skyhook.
Basically.
And depending on where you did it,
you'd probably want to do it over an open field because you got to go pick that thing up.
Well, yeah.
And it's going to suck if it's in a tree.
Yeah. Well, no, just not even considering that. Just for my simple mind, just trying to wrap around this. Would you have to?
You disable all the safety devices, basically.
You'd have to turn off all the. Yeah. It's like taking off the safety of a gun, or like getting rid of the governor on a golf cart.
Turning the traction control off and the ABS when you want to go do something stupid. You have to disable the safety features.
But the AED, would that only depend on the...
If you're going to do that, I wouldn't turn the AED on, because if you fire your cutter, that's about $180 to replace it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, not considering that, not considering picking it up in the field, just to survive. And to pull off the stunt and have fun. Would you want to disable the AED? Or
it depends on your deploying altitude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is the reserve, is that strapped on it? Is there any way to release the reserve?
No. And that's a design feature. Like, you cannot cut away from the reserves. They're built into the harness, basically.
Okay.
Or the way the reserve attaches is a permanent fixture of the harness. It can't be gotten rid of unless you actually cut it away.
They're one piece. Okay. So if you're deploying it over because you're at day 179, do you gotta cut it when you're finished?
The reserve?
Yeah.
No. It only has to be inspected and repacked every 180 days. So a rigger looks at it, they make sure there's no damage to it, and then they just repack it a certain way and seal it back up.
But so let's say you're deploying it over wherever, you just,
it's got to get inspected and repacked.
Hypothetically,
yeah.
Oh, okay. No, okay. Yep. I'm stupid. I was thinking that you had to get rid of the whole fucker and then get a new one. Okay.
There are life limits to reserve parachutes because they have to meet it's called a TSO, a technical standard order. And I think it's more so in Europe that they have I think it's a 20-year life limit on reserve canopies. Mm-hmm. But again, don't quote me on this, but if you, in the US, I believe once it reaches a certain age, it has to go back to the manufacturer for specific testing to make sure the fabric and everything is still within requirements for strength and stuff like that. And as long as it passes that, it's still okay to use.
So if you did want to, for whatever reason, you did want to remove your reserve, how would you do that? Or is that you just have to get a whole new rig? Is it part of the?
No. You just open it up. You pop that pin. You break that seal, and open it up.
I thought you said it was.
It's sealed by a rigger. Yes, it's just breakaway thread though.
Okay, so it's not literally like woven into.
No.
Okay, so let's say you wanna. Now, let's say you want to break it. You want to do your. You got to have 3, right? It's. How does that differ from the reserve? If you want to have one more than you intend, or you have to have one.
You have a tertiary rig. You have a tertiary, a main, and a reserve.
Now, is the tertiary just like the? Yeah, thank you for the display.
I was going to show you.
Yeah.
That's all that's holding it in. So if I just want to open it up, I just break the seal off, hold the pin.
Okay. Now, could you do a tertiary one on that? Or do you...
On that particular rig?
Do you have to get a whole new rig? Is there like a whole... Excuse me. Is there a whole... Smoking too many cigarettes. I don't smoke. Apparently I'm just dying. If you wanted to do, what is the
how do you attach it?
What is the anatomy of a tertiary? Jesus Christ! What is the anatomy of like a tertiary? Maybe I'm just documenting in real time getting coronavirus.
The Kung flu.
Yeah. Hey man, this would be the viral video. This would get it going. Podcaster dies.
What do they look like? Is what you're asking?
Well. Yeah, is it different? Is it an entirely different thing? Is it something you can modify your existing rig with?
Yeah, so they make basically just add-on attachment points that you can attach to a current rig, or I've seen custom-made rigs that had built-in extra attachment points where you just hook it into it, and it just clips on. And it's just, have you ever seen the old kind of like paratrooper videos from like World War II where they have like a big thing in the front? It's kind of just like that. It just clips on.
Okay. Is it fundamentally different from your primary? Am I coming through all right?
Yeah, you're fine.
I normally lean up close so I can talk into it.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Is it fundamentally different from your primary shoot? Just like your primary...
It's whatever you put in there. So generally speaking, if you have a tertiary rig, that's probably what you're testing anyways. Say you have like a prototype parachute, or you're doing like an intended cutaway, that's going to be in the tertiary rig most likely. Okay. So it's really just whatever you put in there.
Okay. Is your reserve smaller than your primary?
It can be. There's a whole range of sizes that they make, and you have to choose an appropriate size for whatever size rig that you have.
Okay. So
we measure in square feet, and my reserve, I think maximum size is supposed to be 106 square feet or 113 square feet per the book, but you can actually, depending on the actual reserve parachute, some of them pack slightly smaller than others. So I actually have 120 square foot reserve in there. And my main parachute is 79 square feet. So, bit of a difference.
Wait, your main 79. How big is your reserve?
120.
So your reserve's bigger than your primary?
In my case, yes.
I guess that makes sense. If you're pulling the reserve, something's probably gone wrong. You probably want to just... You
want as much fabric over your head as possible. But, like, they're not always bigger. Okay. I know in many cases the reserve is smaller. Not by a lot, but it is.
So I'm just trying to think of like the succession of like how it would go. I don't know if I'm making it more complex than it is. So if you want to do the tertiary, is there any like?
It doesn't affect the sizing of the main or the reserve.
So it doesn't have to be bigger than the primary or smaller than the primary.
A tertiary just simply means it's a third one that you've added on somewhere.
Okay.
That's it. It's an accessory.
Okay. And how do you release that? Is it like a thing you put on? I think you just said this, but it's going over my head.
Releases in deployed or releases in like get rid of it?
Well, if you have your rig and it seems like everything's built in, it's like they're set. I don't know why my voice is going. Excuse me. Is your tertiary...
It's not part of the rig itself.
So
usually the tertiary is just like a clip-on thing that goes on the front.
Okay, so but to release that, not to like get rid of it, I mean to use it.
Yeah. Basically, just there's a little handle on the front where the pilot shoot. That's it. Doesn't really have to be overly complicated.
Now, just like if your sky hook, my voice is it's getting like hard to. I'm gonna have to have you talk.
Tertiary is not connected to anything else like that. It is its own entity. So it has nothing to do with the main or the reserve on your actual rig.
But you couldn't use the tertiary as a sky hook to your primary. Like, let's say your tertiary fucked up, even though.
I mean, you could if you had some like.
I'm being the annoying like.
No, you're fine.
I'm being the Karen. Like, well, what if this happens, and what if you?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
You could.
But it doesn't have to be. So, like, obviously, it's your tertiary. It's you're not. But if it fucked up, I guess it's not the same danger as if your primary fucks up and you only have your reserve. Tertiary fucks up, you still have. The only reason.
Two more.
Yeah, because the only reason you'd be planning on using a tertiary would be for.
When you plan on something potentially going wrong, anyways.
This is going over.
Or just kidding. Yeah, you're good.
Apparently, my throat's fucked up, so. From here forward, this is welcome to Seancast.
Hey.
And, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
I was gonna say Beardcast because I had two friends on. They both had big beards, and they called it Beardcast. And I was like, I can't grow a beard, but I realized it applies here. It's beard. Welcome to Beardcast. They kicked me off. They said you're no longer allowed on Beardcast because I can't grow.
Yeah, you got a little bitch face.
Yeah, I can't. I got a little baby cheeks. You got a little bit of fuzz. When I get facial hair, I look like a chemo patient that survived. Like, it's disgusting.
You get the pedo stash?
Yeah. I can't even get the pedo stash, man. I get the pedo and training stash. Not that that's something to aspire towards. So, tertiary... So,
it's just a completely separate add-on accessory that lets you take a third parachute. Usually for, like, a demonstration purpose.
Okay. Is there any time you would ever have, like, a quad shoot?
I mean, if you wanted a tertiary for your tertiary, but I can't immediately think of one. Doesn't mean it probably hasn't been done.
All right, well, let's get to... I've exhausted my ability to learn about this.
Yeah.
So, one thing we didn't touch on last time is, and I also want to segue into this because my throat hurts, so I just want you to go off. How does one get into skydiving? What is the safety features like? How do you get to where you are?
How do you get to where I am as an instructor or just as a skydiver?
Just in general, for people that want to get into the sport. For people that we're going to use this as a promo for skydiving. How would people, because as you can tell with me as someone that doesn't skydive,
you have no idea where to start.
Exactly, and it's all overwhelming. I see you, and I'm lucky I can have you sit, a literal instructor with 2,300 jumps. You can sit here and be patient with my dumb ass and show me all the straps and stuff. For someone that doesn't know anything like myself, and it does seem overwhelming. How does one get into it?
So the general way that it goes is, if somebody's on here is watching, wants to learn, go to USPA.org, United States Parachute Association, and there's a little tab that says like Drop Zone Finder or something like that, and it has it by state. And so look up your state. If you're near the border, obviously look up the bordering states, and there might be multiple. If you're in Florida, there's a plethora of skydiving drop zones. If you're in California, there's quite a few as well. I think New York has quite a few. There's a couple places that have a big bunches of them, and Florida just happens to be one of them. If there's multiple, look up reviews, look at their websites, and call and ask if they teach people to skydive. Mm-hmm. And so basically how it goes is it's a crawl, walk, run phase. If you want to learn to skydive by yourself, we give you a basic ground school, which is, depending on who's teaching, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. And we teach you the basics of how to skydive. We familiarize you with the gear, how to operate it, how to exit the aircraft safely, what to do in free fall. We're right there with you. how to deploy your parachute, fly it down, and land yourself safely. And it's crawl, walk, run. We start with small stuff and we keep working up. And by the time you get to the end of it, we typically have you doing flips and barrel rolls and stuff like that. Not only building confidence, but to show that you can control yourself in free fall and recover from unusual attitudes if you find yourself upside down or spinning. And then we graduate you from there. We clear you for solo skydiving, and you do what are called coach jumps, which is basically a lower rated instructor, and you kind of just go out and have fun and learn a little bit at the same time. Mm-hmm. They sign you off and you start working towards your license requirements. There's 4 licenses, A, B, C, and D. A is the lowest. It's 25 jumps. Having met the criteria, sometimes people get it at like 30 or 35 jumps. Is not really a big deal. And then that kind of just lets you go anywhere and everywhere, as long as there's not like a license restriction like Dubai had, where you had to have the highest license. Mm-hmm. B license is 50 jumps or greater, having met the criteria, and that lets you do things like night jumps and I think helicopter jumps and hot air balloon jumps and stuff like that. C license doesn't really let you do a lot more. And the D license is one of the requirements for you to become a tandem instructor. C license is 200 jumps, and then D license is 500 jumps or more in the U.S. And so if you want to do what I've done and become an instructor as well, basically those first 500 jumps are on you. And then as far as like paying for them, you can get a coach rating that kind of helps you pay for some of those. You at least get free skydives, more or less. And then you sign up for a training course, like for my AFF rating, my accelerated free fall rating, to teach people. That was an entire week course I had to go through. I had to do 10 or 15 jumps in that course, evaluation jumps and stuff like that to earn my rating. If you want to get a tandem rating, again, you sign up for the course. You make sure you meet the criteria as far as having a medical certificate from the FAA, go through the tandem training course. You have your D license. You there's some other requirements. Can't remember off the top of my head, and you go through the training course and get certified to do that. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. But if anybody's on the fence about skydiving, just find a drop zone, don't die. Find a drop zone, go in, call them, ask questions, hang out, watch how it's done.
Yeah.
That's it. It's really not, it's nothing that the average person can't do.
Yeah.
The gear is designed for the average person to use it. It's not designed for superhumans or anything like that. All of us that skydive are just kind of regular people. We just ended up liking skydiving.
Jumping out of planes. You're not regular. Yeah. You jump out of planes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty vanilla when it comes to the skydiving world, I guess you could say.
So, you said Dubai, you have to have the highest license?
There's certain drop zones in certain areas that have a minimum license requirement, and it's usually because there's some sort of hazard or a limitation. Like, for example, I think there's one in Texas along the coastline that has a very small landing area, and because they're on the coast, they have a lot higher winds. So they have a minimum license requirement for that. The place I jumped the first time in Titusville, Florida, didn't have a big landing area, did not have a lot of options of safe other places to land that were close. So they had a C license minimum. And then Dubai, they've got a reputation to uphold. And again, there's just not a lot of safe landing areas elsewhere that won't get you in trouble. So D license, the highest license required for that. But most drop zones, you don't need that. You don't need a high license to jump at.
What do you mean by safe area to land?
So like in Dubai, there was a lot of ocean. There were skyscrapers on one side. There were construction sites.
Okay. All right. I was just thinking, like, in general, It seems like...
I mean, the world is a drop zone. You can land anywhere. I don't advocate landing in certain places.
I was going to say, it seems all equally dangerous because you're just accelerating downwards. So for something like 9/11, would parachutes have worked above
in the World Trade Centers?
1,350 feet tall out of the roof.
Yeah.
Upper floors. It's kind of like what we said earlier. No, like I don't know how well it would work, but it's like if you don't use a parachute and
it's a non-zero chance.
Exactly. Like I think something like 146 people jumped. I think from the North Tower alone. That's 146 guaranteed. You're going down.
Potential saves too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How effective, if even, would have there been any success rate? Would there have been I mean, how far away do you have to get from the building? How does the wind interact with the building? Could it have been does the massive inferno have something to do with it? Because that's the only time you would use these to jump out of a building, I would imagine, is in inferno. Because if it's collapsing, you don't have time. It's not a plane crashing. It's collapsing. It's almost free fall till you're dead. So something like 9/11, where it's North Tower, stairwells are sliced, you can't get out. And let's say you're in the top, where the plane crashed, 92nd floor. You're in the top 18 floors. So let's say you're probably like 1,100 feet and above. Something like the World Trade Center, it just so happens that there's no setbacks, meaning it's just a straight drop to the bottom. The World Trade Centers were fairly unique, and most skyscrapers have some sort of there's zoning requirements. These just were straight bottom to the top.
It wasn't overhung or underhung. It was just straight up.
Yeah. Would that have worked? Would have there been any success?
It very well could have been. Like at 1,100 feet, if I'm in a burning building like that, I'm going to take that thing out and hope for the best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use my main parachute because it's designed to take that long to open. I'm going to use my reserve parachute that's designed to open quickly and reliably.
Yeah.
And will it work? Probably, as long as I don't have an off-heading opening that turns me back towards the building.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a better chance of trying that.
And even then, like a fucked up landing, 2 shattered femurs is... You were going to get shattered femurs if you weren't using a parachute. You weren't going to live. That was shattered femurs.
Your femurs are going to be everywhere.
Yeah, really, you jump there, the bodies almost weren't recognizable.
It's a non-zero chance of survival, at least.
Whenever this argument gets brought up, or just in general, like, how come you don't have parachute, or have some armchair, safety expert? I would have made everyone.
They do have after that. They do have what's called the SOS system now, the single operator system or whatever, which is an emergency bailout parachute for high rises, which is more or less it's more like a base jumping rig, made for jumping off low stuff, and it's made for the average person to use. And I looked them up before I talked to you earlier. They're about $2,200 each, and I think they're made by a European company. I've never seen one in real life or known anywhere that had them, to my knowledge. But basically, it just allows you to strap it on and then go jump out. And it's like one handle that you have reserves. You don't have anything else. It's literally just one handle, one parachute. Just like, let's hope it works. Which is better than going down with a flaming ship.
Better than and it's something where it's like the World Trade Center, where it wasn't even like you can brave the fire. Go.
You couldn't
go wrap your clothes. Some people are like, I would have gone to the bathroom and like soaked my clothes and ran. Everything was sliced. Water was sliced.
Yeah.
Elevator cables were sliced. Stairwell.
Thick smoke, and it's 1,500 degrees of flames.
Exactly. Everything's burning. You're that high up. I mean, with broken windows too. The wind at that height, that was just feeding fire. You know? Go to a fire and you blow on the coals. That's what was happening. Something like that. Yeah, it almost seems like it's a non-zero chance, right? It's greater than or equal to 100, or no, less than or equal to 100% chance of death.
Yeah.
You said the SOS system. The connection kind of broke up when you're talking about it.
It's like a single operator use or something, or single operator system, something like that.
How is it deployed? Is it literally like? Is there any? Let's say
it's like one handle or something. Like that's literally you jump and you pull a handle.
Does it say how long you have to wait? Is it because it's just someone like me?
It's designed to open in like 100 feet or something.
Okay, so like someone like me, or the vast majority of people never skydive, and you find yourself in a, you're a quarter mile up in a burning building. You're not thinking rationally. It's literally going to be like, what do I do? So if you jumped out, you just jump out and pull immediately.
Yep.
And it would.
I think there's also an option that allows you to like clip it into something solid. That way, when you jump out, it acts like a MART and it pulls it out for you.
Okay.
I think that's an option. I didn't look too much at it because I was like, oh shit, I need to look at it before I talk to him. But I think that's one of the options on it as well. Mm-hmm. But even if you just jump and pull, like, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. What about something now? I was gonna say, what about something like? Well, I mean, So another thing that comes up is like helicopter rescues.
The problem with helicopters is they fly low and slow. That's their whole purpose. So by the time something goes wrong, it usually goes catastrophically wrong at a very low altitude, and there's no way to get out. Even if you could get out, helicopters are not the cleanest thing to get out of if something's going wrong.
No, I meant like, I don't mean like jumping out of a helicopter. I meant using a helicopter to get out.
To the roof?
Yeah. Well, the problem with the World Trade Centers was...
they had the doors locked.
That, but also just a fire in general of that magnitude. They said you couldn't get close to it. Not only that, they said it was sucking up the air so fast that it would have fucked up anything that got close to it.
Yeah, I think, the doors were locked too.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they actually, I want to say the NYPD tried to fly up there and pick up people, but there was nobody there.
Jesus Christ.
But like, I understand why they had the doors locked. They don't want people getting up there and jumping off the building.
Yeah.
Whether they're base jumpers, which they probably aren't, it's usually just somebody suicidal.
Yeah. It's that one guy did base jump off the World Trade Center in like, I think the early 90s or something.
The Freedom Tower, there was a base jumper that got in a lot of trouble because before the Freedom Tower was finished, he snuck up in there.
Is that the guy?
And I think they tried to get him with like terrorism charges or something like that.
I remember watching. Yeah. I remember those videos because those were the first videos I'd ever seen that were 60 FPS. I just remember, I was like, this looks so real. But
it's so smooth.
Yeah, I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, like, aside from the whole fact you're jumping from... But yeah, it was like 3 guys, and you can like 3 different camera angles. But there was a guy that... There's like a newspaper clipping picture of it. I think there's only one picture of the guy. But someone thought it was like a suicide. And the only picture they have is just like, he's already on 1 foot. Like, one leg is over the end, and he's jumping off. Yeah. And obviously he survived. Yeah, I mean, there's only so many people you could get off with a helicopter.
You have to make multiple trips.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But you'd think with, like after 9/11, you think that that would kind of be like a commonplace thing, the SOS systems.
Well, a lot of it is cost of implementation and just the chance of it happening again. Like, they got us once. The chance of it happening again is probably, realistically speaking, much lower now.
Sure.
And the buildings are designed better now. When the World Trade Centers were designed, they were designed to take an impact from the biggest plane that existed at the time.
Yeah.
And we made planes bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, they were finished in 1972, 1973.
Something like that, yeah.
By no means modern. Something like, well, let's say it's not even like a chances of them getting us again. What if it was just a fire? What if it was just something Burj Khalifa? What if something just went wrong?
I think a lot of it would be just the price to implement it versus the chance of it actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And also, kind of having those sit around. Someone's just like, hey, we could probably use one of those to do something we probably shouldn't, but it'll be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's probably more of one of those things. And is it? I'm not really sure, but those are the things that come to mind.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of even like...
some places have them because they're for sale.
Yeah.
You can buy one right now online if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of like some CEO who's got the top floor.
Yeah, he probably has his own.
Probably has probably most of them have choppers too. But I'm just thinking something like that. You're some like... Who's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blank, some multi-billionaire, and you're on the top floor. I'm just thinking from like a cost perspective, but also just like, I got a dope life going on. Like, maybe they have them, maybe they're just not advertised.
Yeah, I think they're also one of those things that like you probably wouldn't want to advertise them too much because, again, people get ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had them in like residential buildings...
if you had those in like a frat house, a college dorm,
yeah,
nobody's gonna use them for anything good.
No. Well, I think about like me and my buddies from college we stayed in some fucking tall hotel in Manhattan on Times Square on New Year's Eve. Yeah, blackout drunk.
Yeah, nothing good's gonna come of that. You're gonna have more fatalities with that system implemented around drunk, stupid people than you are if the building came down and you didn't have them.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, like, we made a mess of, like, the mini fridge and, like, like, the in-unit washer and dryer. I can't imagine what we'd do if we found a fucking parachute.
Yeah, or 4 parachutes.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What about, I guess we kind of touched on it with Air Force One. What about something like, again, cost and limitation? What about something like a commercial plane?
Well, here's the thing: is commercial aviation already is just so exceedingly safe. A couple reasons why I wouldn't think you would want to do that is, one, you're introducing more human factor into it. And when it comes to aviation or anything that flies, it's usually not the equipment that fails, it's the human that fails somehow. And so now, instead of 2 trained pilots that are trying to land this thing and get it down, you have 400 panicking people in the back, including Karen, who had to take a Xanax just to get on a plane. And you expect her to make a life or death decision involving things she knows nothing about.
Yeah.
Not to mention her 4 little kids that she's got to strap on parachutes to. And she can't even get them to the bathroom on time. Not to mention, people can't even smoothly get out of a plane whenever they open the doors and you're sitting there.
Yeah. Oh, everybody get up. Like, yeah.
So that's not going to work. And then the other thing is, there's no clean way to exit a plane like that, especially when things are going wrong.
Yeah.
So
the only time there would be the only situation in which you're able to exit a plane that is normally pressurized is when something has gone terribly wrong. It's like the only time there's a window open in the World Trade Center. Windows don't open. They don't. Only time they're open is when they're shattered, and that's because something went horribly wrong.
Yeah. Like when we go skydiving, a lot of times when we open the door, people like freak out. I'm like, "What's the matter? You've never been in a plane with the door open?" And they're like, "No,
I haven't." Yeah, no. It's a. Yeah.
Have you watched the Will Smith skydiving video?
No.
He touches on that. He's like, "I've never been in a plane with the frickin' door open."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's like what Joe Rogan said when Andy Stump was on. He's like, "Would you ever go skydiving?" He was like, "No. I'm in a perfectly good plane. I see no reason to leave it." Like, yeah. But it's, I mean, yeah, that's my mindset, man. It's.
Well, plus on top of that, you imagine you got a plane with 300-400 people. The logistics of just having 300 or 400 parachutes and the weight is a big thing in aviation.
Yeah.
I saw some statistic, and I don't remember specifically what it was, but it was like for a large commercial plane, every 1 kilogram that you remove from it is like $100,000 in lifetime savings for fuel.
Yeah, it was like one.
It's a phenomenal amount.
One airline removed like a cherry from their sundaes back when they actually served food. Yeah, but it was like it was like just removing cherries from food. It's like that one plane would save something like $40,000 in fuel. Just that one
over
plane.
Its lifetime.
Yeah. Or not. I think it was like annual. It was something insane.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, even let's say you get 300 people trying to get out. That would be a clusterfuck if you had 300 trained.
You'd have people deploying the parachutes in the plane, getting all wrapped up.
Me.
Yeah.
Some jackass like me would just be freaking out.
Yeah. What's this handle do?
Yeah.
Sucks to be you, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, what are so how do they do something like paratroopers?
It's you talk about in World War II where they just kick a bunch of them out, or what they do now.
Even now.
I mean, they have a side door exit, but they have to teach them a particular way to exit. They have wind deflectors on there, and it's what's called a static line jump. So basically, there's a line that attaches to a cable in there, and as soon as they jump out, it pulls the parachute out. It's kind of like a MARD device, like I told you, except there's just no parachute. Mm-hmm. It's just solidly attached to the plane. Mm-hmm. And the injury rate for that is still relatively high. And they're also not doing 400 knots. They're doing 110 or something like that, 120.
Yeah, and that's with people who are trained to do it.
Yeah.
And they're expecting.
Airborne school in the Army is 3 weeks.
Yeah, and they're expecting to do it.
Yeah, that's the end result. That's what they need to happen.
That's the psychological aspect of it. Just you may not. I mean, it may sound obvious. It's well, that's what they're doing on this flight, be it in a fucking active war zone or training.
Yeah.
But that entire psychological of this is what I'm doing on this flight versus I thought I was going to
Hawaii. I'm drunk. Now I got to bail out of this plane in the middle of the Pacific. I'll just go down with it. The death is going to be much quicker.
Dude, I've thought about that. Going down, to me, that is my worst fear ever. Is going down in a plane over the ocean and surviving. I want to die.
Nose it over. I want it to be good. I don't want to limp away from this.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's what I used to tell our helicopter pilots. I'm like, if you think anything is going to go wrong, just right in the ground. I don't want to limp away.
Yeah.
Make it good.
I mean, really aim this fucker. Yeah.
The most solid thing you can possibly hit at the highest speed possible.
Yeah. You can just press it down. Go for that granite ledge, just right into there.
Yep.
Make sure you cut the fuel lines. Do everything.
You won't have to. The impact will do it for you.
Okay, perfect.
Always a fireball.
Okay, yeah. Just want a fireball. And not only that, I'm like leaning my head up against the wall.
Yeah.
Just so my neck cracks. Yeah.
There's a saying that we used to have: the only time you can have too much fuel when you're flying is if you're on fire or crashing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But dude, can you imagine just surviving and then being in like the middle of the fucking Pacific?
That'd suck. I'd rather just go down with the plane quickly.
Fucking sharks, dude. Fucking shark. Fuck that. Have you ever seen those videos of like them airdropping like Humvees?
Oh yeah, and the ones that go wrong.
Yeah. That video where like a couple go wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently it was so suspicious they actually investigated it, and it was like.
It was some disgruntled army rigger.
Yeah.
It was like, I think 3 of them or something.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Yeah. It wasn't even like foreign sabotage. It was just some dude that was just like, fuck it, fuck you, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got fucked. What are the parachutes like for something like that? Or even
very large and round. They don't really have any forward speed. They just come straight down.
Okay.
And the good thing about round parachutes is they don't really malfunction like the parachutes we have. We have square parachutes that are designed to fly in one direction. And so whenever they go wrong, a lot of times they twist themselves up and everything. A round parachute, it's round. It's symmetrical no matter which way it goes. So it doesn't really malfunction per se. Mm-hmm. The only malfunction it has is just not opening. But like assuming it opens, it's done its job. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of multiple round parachutes on them, and they measure them at the diameter in feet. And so cargo parachutes, I would assume, are probably... I don't know, they probably are in the 40 to 50 foot range for that stuff, times however many they need. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know the size. I wasn't a rigger in the military, so I'm just taking a guess at that.
So for something like that, I feel like you'd want one of those for Karen on her flight to Key West.
Oh yeah, for sure. You would just want big round parachutes that don't really malfunction.
Like you can't fuck it up. You can have a panic attack and be screaming the whole way down, but you can't fuck it up.
Pretty much.
So what if you did something like, I wonder if you could almost do like reverse dope on a rope type thing, where it would be like, it would just yank out like several people at once, several screaming, panicking.
Oh sure, but the logistics of getting those several screaming, panicking people together and hooked up.
Maybe.
Logistics is an issue.
Yeah.
It's always an issue.
What if you had the fuselage separate into pieces? Like,
so I've seen that in like how they have the separating fuselage with the big parachutes on the back for plane crashes. And the thing is, you're kind of creating a solution to a problem that's really hardly existent. And if it's caused, it's the human factor that caused it. Now you're introducing more human error, possibly. You're introducing more failure points mechanically. You're complicating a situation that like we've actually got a pretty good handle on. Mm-hmm. So and also the last thing you would want to do is get rid of the fuselage, because you turned a maybe crash into a definite crash, because everything else is still coming down. Like once you take all that big chunk off, like it's got to come down somewhere.
But I feel like it'd be like the non 0% chance thing. It'd be like plane's fucked up, you've got 500 passengers on. Wouldn't you want to release the fuselage? I mean, it would be a pilot choice, and just have like massive cargo parachutes on it. Again, not
think
good.
It's just the logistics of doing so, and you're introducing so many potential failure points. Usually things are, like when people ask me things and I don't always have the answer to it, I just default to saying it usually is the way it is for some really good reason that I may not understand. if that makes sense.
No, it does. I'm just like we've done more complex shit, like the old like Keystone, not Keystone.
We put a man on the
Keyhole.
moon.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Woo. But the keyhole parachutes, not parachutes, satellites, or the Corona ones. Some of the original satellites, it would eject the film canister.
Yeah.
And we would pick that up in midair with a jet because it was on a parachute. It just seems like but I guess that's like national security intel, and that's what it's designed for, as opposed to.
And it's for something very small. It's a film canister versus 400 screaming people.
400 screaming Karens.
Yes.
Who are 400. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, Karens.
Panicking on Xanax.
On Xanax. Yeah. This is their vacation. This is our time.
Sometimes the less options you give someone, the safer they end up being.
Yeah. Maybe the move is you just fucking release like Valium into the fuselage.
Just rapid release Valiums. Yeah, so what happens when that system malfunctions and it does it with the cockpit door open? Yeah.
Yeah. God.
Failure points, buddy.
Yeah. Now what if I'm just keep shooting them down? But I'm gonna keep
by all
throwing
means,
out my
I enjoy it.
I'm gonna keep. So like, they have like those. It almost like the pallets with like the Humvees on them, but like platforms, and they kind of like roll out the back.
Yep.
Or almost like the Moab, like the huge bomb. It literally push it out, pallet falls, and the parachute deploys. What if you just did that, but you just pulled out sections of seats? Let's say you just had like 10 rows long. And it was like...
I mean, I guess it would technically be possible, like as far as doing the math and designing it, but also like, again, who makes that call? And once you do that, it's an all or nothing thing because you're massively changing the center of gravity of this thing.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah. The chances of a large commercial plane crashing are already so minimal. We'll never be able to reach zero.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, the amount of effort and design and potential failure points you're trying to design into it is just not worth it.
And you'd probably increase the danger.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
That's it. Like you said, so many fail points. Yeah, you'd almost increase the chance of something fucking up.
Like in skydiving, Bill Booth, the guy I told you about that had the huge beard and like is almost like the godfather of modern skydiving. I watched an expo video from him in England the other night from like 2 years ago, and he brought up a valid point, and he said the safer skydiving gets, the more risk jumpers are willing to take to basically keep the fatality rate level. So like you can design the safest thing in the world, but somebody has to operate it. So usually the less human error you can have in there, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, it's like we design like better and better wingsuits, and so naturally we just what gets invented.
Fly closer,
what gets invented? Proximity flying. It's like it's
new and exciting ways to kill yourself this week.
Yeah, it's like when you get a 3-day weekend, that just gives you more time to procrastinate the homework that's due. It's like you don't do it in time. You just procrastinate it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean,
the more you can remove the humans from the situation, really, the safer it's going to be.
Yeah, because nothing's going to go as planned.
Autonomous vehicles, for example, it's happening. And honestly, I cannot wait. Traffic's going to be better. It's going to be safer on the roads.
Oh, yeah. Driving's going to be better.
I mean, I love driving my stick shift and having fun with it, but like if I had the fully autonomous option, absolutely.
Yeah, my brother has a Tesla, and he sends me videos all the time. And it's just like...
Must be nice.
Getting on the highway, getting off the highway.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the wearing a seatbelt thing, where it's like, I'm not going to wear mine, you guys can be safe, and it's like, no, you're a danger to us. It's like with self-driving cars, like I'll often say, family members or friends, like, wouldn't you want these? And it's like, I'm a good driver, I'm not worried about it, and it's like, well, it's not for you.
Yeah, it's everyone else.
It's for Karen. It's for fucking Karen. Karen, who's updating her Facebook status while doing 70 in a residential zone. Like, yeah. Do you think?
Well, again, the human factor is the weak point.
Yeah.
So, if you remove the human factor from it, it gets safer whether you are the human factor or not. I mean, I think I am a decent driver, probably slightly above average. I would believe, but I'm not infallible. Like, I could miss a stop sign and blast through a four-way intersection and kill someone. I hope not, but like, it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've missed signs before. I've missed exits before. I mean,
yeah, computer doesn't make that mistake.
And if they do make mistakes, it's usually much less frequently.
Yeah, it's like 1 in a billion, and then that mistake gets corrected in the software, and it does not happen again. There's no there's no learning curve where it's like, that's strike one, buddy. It's like, no, what caused that? What sequence of code caused that? Excise it, put in something new. That no longer happens. End of story. Fuck.
Yeah.
All of my fun ideas. If money wasn't a problem, fucking Red Bull comes to you and just says, you're the best. You got big dick energy. We like it. We're gonna foot the bill. What do you get for gear?
What do I get for gear?
Yeah. Well,
as far as like brands, or just like what would I buy?
What would you get? It's yours. It's blank check.
I would honestly get pretty similar to what I have now. I wouldn't change a lot. I might switch a brand, but as far as like design goes, I pretty much have what I want now. As far as canopies go, I might buy a brand new version of what I have, maybe in like a custom color. But I have what I want right now. It took me a while to find that. I'd probably get a brand new wingsuit for sure, like a newer, updated one from Squirrel that we talked about. Maybe not the biggest one they have, but I'd get one of the newer ones so I could go have fun with that. And then I'd do a lot more skydiving. As far as like, when I say that, I mean like more, we call it fun jumping. Most of my jumps now are work jumps, and then I go have fun usually at the end of the day or where we have time, but I wouldn't necessarily even have to work in it anymore. I'd still would because I'd enjoy it, but instead of working on Saturday and Sunday, I could work on Saturday, and then Sunday could be my fun day.
Fun day, yeah.
All day long to just go do whatever I wanted.
Yeah. What's like the most baller helmet you could get? You showed me yours last time.
I'd get a newer impact rated helmet for sure. I only know of two of them. One's called the G4, which is really, the G3 was the most popular skydiving helmet ever made, so the G4 got updated. I'd get one of those. And other than that, I actually have a pretty nice helmet. I bought it for a reason. So
yeah,
when I used to skydive full time, 5-6 days a week, I was wearing my helmet multiple hours a day. So like, it pays to have a comfortable helmet that you like, just like it pays to have a comfortable pair of shoes if you're on your feet all day.
Yeah.
So, and I think the helmet itself was about $400. Plus the audible altimeter I have in there, which I think was around $200. And the GoPro on top, if I'm jumping with it, is another, we'll say $200. So like, if I lost that helmet in free fall or whatever, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So it's just, money's not an issue. What's the most baller helmet you could get though? Just be like, fuck it, like Red Bull's footing the bill.
F-35 helmet.
A what?
The F-35 helmet.
Oh, the fighter pilot helmet?
Yeah. But, I mean, the thing is, that helmet's just to make it look like the plane's not there and you can look down and see the sky. That's kind of what you're doing in skydiving anyway. So, you really can't get much more baller. I mean, a heads-up display would be super cool, but I don't know that anybody that actually, like, really manufactures one of those for the helmet.
They don't? That's not, you can't...
That's not for skydiving, to my knowledge.
I bet. You don't think there's just some, like, top-of-the-line shit out there? I mean,
just not for skydiving that I've seen.
What about wingsuiting? You think you could get like the heads-up display so you could like all the shit?
You'd have to get it custom made. If Red Bull was footing the bill, I'm sure you probably could make it work. I'd love to have a jet wing too. Yeah. By all means.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I need the helicopter to go with it because I'm not going to try and take the thing off from the ground.
Yeah.
Not at all, ever. Yeah.
God damn it, Sean. God damn it, Sean. Where would you jump if you could dive anywhere or wingsuit anywhere? Are there specific locations, or is it just kind of air?
As far as skydiving, I would like to do. You talking about just inside the U.S., outside, or just wherever?
Wherever. Red Bull's foot in the bill, dude.
I'd go all over the U.S. I definitely hit up California and the Pacific Northwest. I'd do a couple more in Florida. I would like to go over to where is that country? The Maldives. They just had a big skydiving event out there, and I saw some awesome pictures for it. And there's also do you know what the big blue hole is? You ever seen the pictures of it in the ocean where it just looks like a portal down?
Yeah.
They do skydiving into that. It's like solo skydivers, and you can go fly over it and like land in the water. Obviously, you don't take nice gear because it's salt water.
Yeah.
That would be cool to do. Jumping over Burning Man would also be pretty cool. I know a couple of people that have done that.
Jesus.
Yeah, there's some super cool pictures of people skydiving right over top of Burning Man.
That's insane. What about you said you don't do proximity.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's on the list. I mean, like if Red Bull was footing the bill, I have a friend. Last name's Redfoot.
Yeah.
If Red Bull was footing the bill, yeah, I'd probably get into that with proper guidance and training. I wouldn't just hope for the best.
So that's something you would actually attempt. It's not like a writing off like that's just a death wish.
No, there's a safe way to do risky things and mitigate the risks. There's never a safe way to do a dangerous thing, but there are ways to mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
Skydiving is a dangerous sport that we do safely.
How would you get into proximity flying? Would it literally just be you would just do runs and you get closer and closer to the ground?
You would get experience base jumping first. So base jumping is not really a regulated sport most places. So a lot of times you have like a mentor that teaches you what they know, or there are people that do professional base jumping courses that will teach you all the basics and stuff like that, and like actual structured courses. So I would probably start by doing that, and then basically go off their guidance. It's crawl, walk, run. When it comes to proximity stuff, you don't normally fly wingsuits first. You fly what's called a tracking suit, which is basically like a big inflatable pair of pants, kind of like MC Hammer pants, more or less. It's like it looks like a tracksuit from the 80s that you wear, but it inflates.
Yeah.
More or less. And so it's more controllable than a wingsuit, which is basically a straight jacket.
Yeah.
And it's easier to get a clean launch off of objects like cliffs and stuff like that compared to a wingsuit where your legs are essentially tied together. Because a lot of fatalities have happened where people just slipped on the edge in a wingsuit and couldn't catch themselves because their arms and legs were tied together. Jeez. And then they tumbled. And then by the time they got their canopy open, it ran them into the wall.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yep. A majority of base jumps that end up in fatalities, now I'm not a base jumping person, but I know a little bit about it, are usually off things like buildings and cliffs, because if your canopy opens not the right direction, it runs you back into it. Versus like an antenna or a bridge, where once you're off of it, the chance of you hitting something is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
And then wingsuit base jumping is in a category of its own, as far as it really is. Because in 2017 or 2018, I think it was 2018, it was like the worst year for base jump fatalities in a long time. They had something like 18 fatalities in 30 days.
Jesus Christ.
It was pretty up there, because like every other like day I'd get on Facebook and be like, oh, rest in peace to this guy, he was a cool guy. I'm like, oh man, like I don't even know him, but like that sucks.
Yeah.
If I don't know him, I know somebody that does.
Yeah, wingsuit.
Most likely.
Wingsuit base jumping.
Yeah.
That's like,
basically how many more ways can you complicate killing yourself
and get out? Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the end result, if you do it right, it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It's who's that guy that I remember because my roommate was really into like mountain.
Jeb Corliss?
No, not him. Dean Potter?
Yep. He died in 2015. I think base jumping out in California or something.
I think it was Yosemite or...
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure he was wingsuiting too, but again, that was years ago.
Yeah, he used to go wingsuiting with his dog, or parachuting with his dog.
Yep, because there's some cool videos out there of just his dog riding along in the back.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not the dog was with him on the fatal trip.
I hope not.
Me too. I mean, I don't, not to downplay his death. Like,
Yeah, but like
you're gone, man. But the pooch.
don't take the dog.
No, yeah. No. He hit like the side of a mountain or something.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know what it is. A lot of times what gets them in wingsuiting is flying too close and not fast enough. So when it comes to flying things, speed is your friend because speed equals control.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you drive a boat too slowly, you just don't have any control.
Yeah.
And so say you get really close to the terrain in a wingsuit and you're going slow, you don't have excess airspeed to pull up and away. You just keep sinking down and then you hit whatever you're over top of.
Yeah.
So flying steep and fast is actually a safety measure.
Okay.
If there's something that's too flat, you can't fly a wingsuit over it because you cannot maintain the speed you need to clear that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so you said base jumping, a lot of the fatalities will come from, or if it's off like a building or something.
Buildings or cliffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the fatal moment the impact with the vertical surface, or do you hit that and then you fall?
It varies. A lot of people, they've had off-heading openings where it turned them back towards the building.
Yeah.
Then they ran into the building, and then a lot of times the parachute stays inflated, but not as well. And so now your vertical speed increases, and then whatever's below you hit, whether it be, another rock formation or parked cars or something. Yeah. Something's going to get you.
Yeah. But so is it the turning around and hitting the building?
It can be because...
that would kill you? I feel like the fall would kill you.
Dude, it depends on how you hit. It's a variable answer.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, we'll say 20, 25 miles an hour of forward speed into a solid granite wall, and you've just got a BMX helmet on, more or less. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that very well could kill you already.
Yeah, that's true, because there's no give when you hit.
The others, you are the give.
Yeah, when you hit the skyscraper, it's not. I mean, technically it is giving, but it's giving like a micrometer.
Yeah, like, and what happens when you hit the handrail with your face?
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Or your neck.
Jesus.
There was Jeb Corliss lost one of his friends back in, I don't remember what year it was, but they were wingsuiting over a bridge, a large span.
Yeah.
And I think Jeb went below it. His friend tried to go above it, but didn't have basically the glide ratio he needed, and he ended up impacting the handrail with, like, I think his legs or something like that. And the speed and force that it happened,
I mean, yeah, your body.
It actually ripped him apart.
Yeah.
Because Jeb, when you watch the video, Jeb talks about looking over and, like, seeing an arm or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't Jeb Corliss, didn't he think that
he hit Tabletop Mountain in South Africa and survived.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to get to that, but back to his friend that hit the bridge. Didn't Jeb Corliss, doesn't he suspect that it may have been suicide?
I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't think it was.
Well, no, it wasn't confirmed, but he said that, like, before the jump, his friend said something that, like, was very out of character for him.
Oh, I don't remember. It's been years since I watched it.
But it was something where
it was enough to be concerned.
Yeah, I mean, and not something that you or I would pick out, but it's something that they were good friends, and he realized it was out of. It was I don't know. It was something like, I don't remember. Like it's been fun or something.
Could have just been because he had a bad feeling too.
Maybe just like, hey, if we go in this time, like it's.
And I know within like the base jumping community, especially, like if you get up there and like you're not feeling it, nobody will ever talk shit to you at all.
Yeah.
Nobody will say, "Oh, you're a little bitch." They'll just say, "Okay, that's fine. That's your decision. We'll never make you. We won't make fun of you for it."
Yeah.
Like later on, we might poke at you at like the campfire or something, but like nobody's gonna give you a hard time for that.
Yeah, because all it takes is someone getting pressured in, and then they jump and they die, and now you're all for the rest of your life being like,
I shouldn't have pushed them to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Andy Stump said. He was like, I'll get up there sometimes and be like,
just not feeling it.
Like, I'll just gauge it and just be like, nope. He's like, because
wind has to be right, exit point has to be right. Exactly. You got to be in the right mindset.
He was like, because it's not equipment. He's like, my equipment's fine. He's like, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, just like the physics of the situation. I'm looking at it like, oh, like I'm not getting out of this.
Yeah.
He's like, you just walk back down. He's like, yeah, a lot of people will just go regardless because it was a 3-hour hike.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's when he said he was at some place in like Europe or something.
Probably Italy.
Yeah, but this was on, I think, the second time he was on Rogan. And I remember him saying he was there one weekend, and he said 15 people went in.
He was probably there in 2018.
That was probably it. He said 15. I think he said it was 15, because I remember he was like, yeah. He's like, granted, there were hundreds of people jumping, but he was like, yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Switzerland, because there's the Swiss Space Association, and like they're okay with it, but they put out guidelines like, hey, these are the areas not to fly over. You're basically charged a bill if we got to rescue you, or we're tired of rescuing people. So like this exit point where you jump off of, we're now closing. Jump at your own risk or risk prosecution, just stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
They're a lot more open about jumping over there in Europe. It's mainly an illegal thing here in the U.S., except for like 2 or 3 places.
Yeah. It's like what Andy Stump said. He's like, I don't get any thrill out of like almost killing myself. He's like, He's like, I get a thrill out of like flying that fast in a wingsuit. He was like, he was like, it is impossible for me to not smile when I'm flying in a wingsuit. He's like,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's like, it's just so fun. But he's like, I don't try anything like I'm gonna zip through that crack. He's like, everything I do is like, it's extremely calculated. Like, is that
and
possible?
The guys that were known for doing the most extreme stuff, they're dead, most of them.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple years ago, there was a dude that flew through, like it was a natural hole in an arch, and it was only like 2 or 3 meters wide. I think it was like 3 meters wide. It was not big. And he pulled it off, and it looked super cool. And then I think 2015 or 2016, he died.
Yeah, man. There's some Swiss, I think he was Swiss or Swedish. He's dead now. But there are all these, it's like camcorder videos, because like it was in like the 90s, but he jumped off the Empire State Building, he jumped off the Chrysler Building. I'll find the video of it, because he's in the Chrysler Building, he's got his like camera, and he literally goes up to one area, but he needs to get down to like one of the setbacks, so he literally unfurls like the fire hose, and slides down, and then he jumps off, and he lands in the street, and his buddy picked him up in a cab, like while sirens were coming.
Yeah.
And then
there's some cool videos of people like going to rooftop bars and stuff like that with like a rig. Mainly looks like a backpack to most people, so they don't question it, but they'll go in with like an overcoat or something, and then just like pull it off, climb over the rail, and jump real quick. And of course, everybody's always concerned. But I think Jeb Corliss has a couple videos like that. I know there's one of him at the Empire State Building doing that, and they catch him on the other side of the rail and hold on to him, and he's like, "You will probably kill me if you don't just let me go."
Yeah, because he was like, if my chute inflates, it's like that's literally gonna like,
that's going to kill me.
That's going to rip my arms off my body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that video. He's like, they're holding on to him, and he's like, "Let me go, let me go." But yeah, when he goes up top, it's almost like. It's almost like a streaker. He's like walking up, and he's got like an overcoat on.
A big trench coat.
He's got like a hat down. Yeah.
Man, when I was in the Burj Khalifa, like I was standing out there on the observation deck, like I could totally do this. Like I can get over that handrail. There's a guy there watching me, the security guy, but he's 20 steps away and he's facing the other way. And by the time he even starts doing something, I'm going to be about near the top of that thing. I could totally pull it off.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting there just thinking about it. But then, like, I got to not get arrested when I land and stuff like that. Like, is it possible? Yes. Is it smart? No.
Yeah, and you don't want to get arrested in fucking Dubai.
Yeah.
You don't want to be decapitated. Do you think you could, though, like, legality aside? Again, let's say Red Bull's footing the bill, and they fucking whatever. They can grease enough, they shake enough hands, give enough cash, and now you have the Burj Khalifa to jump off of.
Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would?
Absolutely. I think there's actually a couple really cool videos of, I want to say Red Bull guys
there are some
carving
around. Of people jumping off, They jump off, they got like smoke canisters on their feet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But would you do that? Would you? Because I thought you said it's very dangerous. Open your parachute and come back in. Or would you
wingsuit when you have really tall structures like that, when you have the vertical height to play with, you can actually move away from the building.
Okay.
You can do what's called tracking, which is forward movement, or especially like if you have a wingsuit, like it starts flying away.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to hit.
Yeah.
So, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How would you do it?
How would you what?
How would you do it? Would you have to get like a running start, or would you just, with your wingsuit, would it just be...
You just step off and open it up. Yeah.
That noise, dude. That's...
As long as you're somewhere that's not what we call underhung. So underhung would be like if you're right here, you jump out and hit something.
Mm-hmm.
Overhung would be like an overhanging cliff.
Yeah.
And then there's vertical.
Yeah.
So as long as you're vertical or overhung, you can kind of just step off and you won't hit anything directly below you. And so there's only a couple points on the Burj Khalifa where it's vertical for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets smaller going up. So the whole thing is, on average, underhung.
Yeah.
So
that'd be...
You'd have to choose one of those points
where
you can exit.
Would that just be a matter of finding it on the structure, or is that...
You got to find it on the structure.
Would you just go off the spire? Because you can crawl out through the top.
I don't think there's enough vertical room for you to get away from the rest of it.
Isn't that where the Red Bull guys did it?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing the videos. They probably did it near the top. Either that, or when they were flying parachutes around it, they might have just been dropped over top and then parachuted around it.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a video where they almost have like a diving board type thing.
I think so, but I don't think it's at the very top. Because even if you're 2/3 of the way up, it's still like 1,800 feet.
Yeah.
Or something pretty substantial.
But if you want the full 2,700 feet,
that'd be tricky.
Fuck that.
I know with wingsuits, you can jump off something, and as long as you have, I think the average is like 500 feet, it'll actually start to inflate and glide away. But otherwise, if you don't have that much distance, like you're not actually going to get enough glide for it to really be meaningful. So what they're doing now with these newer suits that inflate faster and fly more efficiently is they can jump off a cliff that maybe only 500 to 800 feet tall and then fly down a mountain next to it. They don't need 3,000 vertical feet. Yeah. They just need 500 for it to start flying.
Clear, yeah. Now, is this something where one of those Jetman suits would come into play?
I mean, it'd be totally cool.
Let's say you're standing on the very tip of the spire. You just fucking rip that engine and...
I mean, it'd be cool. It's not outside of the realm of possibilities because they've already done it from a standing position.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen that video where they get like an enormous slingshot? Mm-hmm. And the guy's on top of the mountain or the cliff and they shoot him off the cliff in that thing and then pulls the parachute?
Yep. So there's something called Bridge Day every year in West Virginia. It's like a sanctioned base jumping event, and they typically have a catapult for people in there. They just kind of sit back in it and then release it, and it just launches them over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of cool like rope swings and stuff like that where you swing down and then let go at the end, flip off, motorcycles off cliffs. I've seen videos of most, but I think there was even a dude that did it off like a sand dune in a dirt bike. He hit a really big one really fast and got 150 feet up or something like that, and at the apex just deployed his parachute.
What if he did that like those skiers that will be like dropped from helicopters at the top of mountains that are like inaccessible? If you just like...
They actually do speedwing flying with guys that ski, and they go down the slopes, and then they can actually pick themselves up off and like grind their skis across the ski lifts and stuff like that, like the cables.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They already do it. And there's a couple cool videos of wingsuit flybys and gondolas, like people going up the mountain and just like right next to them.
Jeez.
Yeah, man, let's go down a YouTube rabbit hole for about an hour of wingsuits and skiing and stuff like that. You'll see some cool stuff.
That's got to be dangerous as fuck going next to the gondola, though. Well,
you're not wrong. It has potential to go very bad very quickly.
Well, no, I was going to say, that's got to be illegal because it's not just you. You hit that gondola and you're a 200-pound person doing 150 miles an hour. That glass isn't stopping you. You're going through.
I think a lot of times there's not a specific rule against it. It just falls into like an umbrella term of wanton endangerment or reckless behavior or something like that.
Masturbating on airplanes is not illegal. It's just frowned upon.
Yeah. It probably falls under something else.
Fuck that, dude. Fuck that. Well, it's 2:59 here. you said you got to go at 3, so let's definitely do another one.
All right, I'll bust the wingsuit out and stuff like that.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get some questions for you. I'm gonna ask some people to ask you questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whether it's about wingsuits, regular skydiving, tandem skydiving, whatever.
Or Secret Service, Air Force
Yeah, Secret Service, how to shoot down the president. I'll give it my best shot.
Yes. Hey FBI, hey NSA.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining.
Tune in at 8 tonight for me crying.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing it, dude. I'll shoot you a link when it's uploaded.
Cool.
All right, dude. Godspeed, brother.
See ya.
Peace.